And a good Monday morning to everybody out there. A little quieter in the studio today than normal. I'm Ben Higgins. It is Ben and Woods here on 97.3 The Fan. And I am joined just over my right shoulder by Dave Roberts back there on the wall. He's pretty silent during the show.
And Lamont Butler.
Yeah.
And Woods' crotch.
And Woods is, teabagging me during a workout recently. My birthday picture, which, by the way, I was authorized to... I'll see if I can slide this way. No, there it is, up on the wall. If you're looking on our YouTube stream, you can watch us on YouTube, Twitch. We're streaming on Twitter, all over the place here on Ben and Woods in the Morning.
Everywhere.
Yeah, that's Steve Liu is our design guy at Channel 10. He does all of our graphics. He's been there forever, I think longer than I have, more than 20 years. Good sports fan, big Aztecs guy, loves Padres baseball as well. He made that for me for my birthday. Nice little still shot of Woods, sitting right on top of my face when I was trying to bench press down in the gym here. Let me get an introduction underway, though. The other person in the studio that's not Dave Roberts is Paul Reindl, our executive producer and imaging director. Good morning, Paulie.
Good morning, Benjamin. Benjamin.
Yeah, Woodsy is off these first 2 days of the week. He's up at visiting Los Angeles at a concert. He said at a cemetery. Was that last night or tonight, or when was he going to the concert?
Tonight.
Tonight is the concert at the cemetery in Hollywood.
Yesterday was, I think, just kind of goofing around the Hollywood Hills area and exploring.
But hopefully we'll. I keep getting the pushback notice of when the Padres are going to hire a manager. First, it was going to be late last week. Then maybe it was going to happen this weekend. Then for sure, maybe today. Last night I saw another tweet. I think it was J.P. Morosi who tweeted he's hearing middle of the week now for a new Padres manager. So maybe Woods will. We'll be back on Wednesday by the time the Padres actually do name a new skipper. But we're just kind of in waiting mode for the Padres to make their first big decision of the offseason. How was your weekend, Paulie?
Weekend was good.
Good.
Just kind of quiet, hanging out at the house. Got some shopping done. It's holiday shopping season.
You're shopping already for the holidays? That is...
Go online right now.
I know.
Everybody... Black Friday is no longer a thing. It's like... The whole month of November is Black Friday sales.
I went to Costco in October, and there was already Christmas trees and everything up. So I get that you can do holiday shopping. You just feel like an overachiever if you're actually out there getting stuff done right now. I can't even think about it yet. I could not bear to go and make decisions on what I'm going to get people for Christmas here on November
only bought a few things.
13th.
Only bought a few things,
okay.
But we're getting...
You're not done.
No,
we're done.
No. The family chat was, is active on, okay, what do you want? What are you hoping to get? Stuff like that. Got a trip to Denver coming up on Friday for the weekend, so just getting ready for that. And other than that, new Call of Duty dropped last week, so first weekend. Definitely got some time in on that.
Do you feel like at some point you're going to outgrow video games? Because I loved playing video games for many years, and I found now in the last 5 to 10 years, I've stopped, and I don't know exactly why. It's not like I have anything against them. I don't think, video games, they're so childish and dumb.
Right.
I feel like it's maybe more I don't have the hand-eye coordination or the quick mind necessary to do them anymore, which makes them less fun when I've tried them. They just seem so much more complicated than they were when I was younger. And I can't wrap my mind around the games that my kids play and how they work, and I'm not really prepared to dive in and figure them out myself. I've never played Call of Duty in my life.
Yeah. So I grew up with the game. It came out in 2007 or something. I think it was the first one. So I've really grown up with that particular franchise, and video games in general have been big if you were born in 1990. So for me, I'm a very casual gamer. I mean, the gaming industry is just insane nowadays. The way streamers and people can just make money and careers out of it. That is so far beyond me. It's time to just, pass a few hours a week. But for me, I I do have the familiarity with the controls in the game, so it's not like hand-eye coordination is ever an issue. It's more just scratching that nostalgia itch, I think, a lot of times.
Yeah, my kids have done some of it, streaming their sessions and, playing with, got headsets on where they're talking to people in other countries as they're playing the game together. And for me, video games was always a very, isolating experience. You'd go to your room, you'd close the door, you'd sit down for 3 hours, you'd have no contact with the rest of the world as you were playing Super Mario Brothers or whatever it is, trying to, beat the next level and get to the end of the game. But there was no chatting, there was no team kind of play. It was one-on-one. You're just trying to beat the level and the bad guy at the end and get to the next level. And then the next day you go to school and you tell everybody, oh yeah, I got past World 7-6 last night. It was amazing, but there was no interactivity.
I would say for me personally, it's exclusively a social thing. Like, I only play when I got some buddies that are also online and we're hanging out and talking.
So this
week,
week,
yesterday I was playing with some tier ones.
Yeah, I actually
Anthony
think
and Beans.
I know. Well, I see him on the chat right now. I know that there are some people, parents especially, who are concerned about online predators and who are you talking with online. And I get that. I mean, it's there are nasty people out there, and you want to protect your kids. However, I think that the video game experience where they're actually talking to people and interacting and chatting and playing as a team is way better than what I was doing growing up. Completely just sit down in front of a TV in my room for 3 straight hours without talking to anyone and playing a game. I'd rather have them doing it this way. And, you actually learn some skills when you're interacting with other people, even if it's in a video game setting. So if you're being, somewhat careful and just making sure that, hey, don't give out your address or credit card information or phone number or anything to someone you don't know. Otherwise, learn. You'll find some good people. You'll find some people you don't like. And this is a good way to kind of safely interact with the rest of society before you actually have to go out there as an adult and do it. So interesting. So I went back to being the old loner Ben this weekend. My kids were up at their festival up in Los Angeles that they went to. And on Saturday, I went out and did the Wishbone Brawl. Well, in the morning, we did the 101 cleanup, helped Shelly with that, and that was a big success. A lot of people, thanks to any of the tier ones who stopped on by and helped pick up trash in Leucadia. The place looks amazing now. Everyone did just big, giant bags and buckets of trash and make the whole place look much, much better. And then I went out to the Wishbone Brawl on Saturday afternoon, which is a terrific event put on by John Ashworth at Goat Hill Park. Featured Xander Schauffele, Jeff Ogilvy, Chris Riley,
always fun,
and some local pros. It was 3 teams of 2. And I followed along. I was there for the front 9, and it was fun to actually watch Xander Schauffele and Chris Riley. They were a team. They bogeyed both the 2nd and the 6th hole, the 2 toughest holes on the front 9 that I bogey all the time at Goat Hill. It made me feel so much better about my game to watch both of those guys struggle the way that I often struggle at that course. It looks like it's a short, easy course. It's not. Even the best player, one of the best players in the world, struggles with that. So that was a lot of fun. And then I went back, and Shelly was at work, and it was quiet, and had a lot of time by myself at my house, which I honestly have not had by myself time at home for decades. I shared a room with my brother for the most part growing up, had my own room in high school. But then when I went off to college, I always had a roommate. And then when I got my own place, I had a roommate. And then when I finally didn't have a roommate, I had a wife. And then we had kids, and I've really always lived with someone and rarely had any time outside of work by myself. But they were all gone. She was gone, and had just really quiet time at home, which was quite enjoyable, actually.
Rare.
Yeah, very rare. Do you have to share a room growing up, or did you have your own room for the most part?
I had my own room.
You did?
Yeah, it was just me and my mom, and then after in college and after college had roommates, but always had my own room still. And then after college I moved out. I lived on my own for years and I loved it. It was my favorite. I love being married, love having a wife.
I wouldn't know,
but
never done it in my life. Lived out on my own. Never
when I was
once.
single, living solo was preferred for me because it gave me the chance. I've always kind of identified myself as like an extroverted introvert where I have no problem going out, meeting up with friends, going to grab drinks or something, but I love the freedom of being able to leave whenever I want to go home to my own house and not have to deal with anybody else. So that was how I did it.
Yeah, there's always a coordination level necessary and a cooperation with someone that is good to be able to do. But honestly, I think I was between roommates for a couple of months once, but other than that, I've never really been on my own. But it was kind of nice this weekend to have a quiet house, just me and the dogs, and watching some football yesterday. I had Red Zone on all day until I went to work, and had a lot of fun. We'll get into some of the sports over the weekend, both college football, NFL yesterday. I certainly got to watch a ton of it. College basketball, Aztecs loss on Friday night against BYU, and obviously we'll keep you updated on any Padres news, talk about some of the free agents.
Still waiting.
Stories breaking as well. We did see Fernando Tatis Jr. win a Platinum Glove Award over the weekend. It was announced that not only did he get a Gold Glove, but Platinum Glove is the best overall fielder in the National League. So
pretty good, right?
Yeah, I think the move to right field has been pretty much a success for Fernando Tatis Jr. in that first season. So congratulations to him, but we'll get into some baseball talk as well. I also wanted to mention, since I brought up the Wishbone Brawl, the auction is live. We mentioned this a couple of times last week, but you can go to our Ben & Woods Twitter page right now. I think Paulie, you guys retweeted it last night.
Yes.
Go to the link, and if you scroll down to the bottom, it's the Wishbone Brawl online auction, and they got a bunch of items like a signed Masters flag from Xander Schauffele and some golf getaways and gear, whatever. But I think it's like the last item number 163. Save the best for last. Scroll all the way to the bottom. You can bid on golf with the three of us, like a Ryder Cup style match where you and a couple of buddies team up with either me, Paul, or Woods, and we all go play Goat Hill. I think it's on December 22nd. And you get like team outfits from Link Soul, and we play golf all together, and it goes to a good cause. It's the North County Junior Golf Program and the Caddy Program for kids up there at Goat Hill Park that they're raising money. They're trying to build a youth academy up there as well, just something simple, but a place
Great
for after
cause.
school for kids to go. It's such a great environment, and it's just a healthy thing to do, to be out on the golf course, young kids walking, getting exercise, learning that kind of the etiquette of the game and the interaction with other kids, adults, whatever. I think it's a good thing for them, and they seem to have a fun time learning how to caddy and make some money. They get some tips and whatever. It's really cool, and what John Ashworth has done up there is amazing. But if you want to bid, you can go click on that link for the Wishbone Brawl auction and have a chance to play in a match with the three of us coming up next month at Goat Hill Park, so you can check that out. But we'll get into it here coming up this morning. And again, Sam Levitt is going to be by in studio for our last hour. Yeah, in-season Sammy. This would be off-season Sammy is going to join us for an hour as he checks in ahead of whatever the Padres make their announcement about a manager. We did hear the Houston Astros decide on their new manager over the weekend. It's going to be Joe Espada, their longtime bench coach, to take the reins from Dusty Baker, who retired. So it leaves just the Padres and the Brewers as the only two teams without a skipper now. I've got to imagine that the news is coming midweek, as Morosi says, or maybe sooner. I mean, maybe the Padres, the news conference might be the middle of the week, but they have to be. They have to be in the final stages. I mean, they have to be negotiating or talking to someone's agent at this point, right?
I would assume so.
I can't imagine that AJ Preller's just looking still at his lists of pros and cons, going
list of four guys, two of which you've had in your organization for years.
Is it Heel? Is it Nevin? I just can't decide. Waiting for some bolt of lightning flash of inspiration to hit him. So they've got to be talking to someone at this point. It's going to get out in the next, I would think, 24, 48 hours tops. We should have a Padres manager, so we'll get into that as well. So a listener beat Woods. It was Joe, right?
Yes.
Woods on Woods last week, so he'll get the Daily Ditty selection. And I'm turning it into a theme.
He didn't give us a theme.
No, but I'm turning it into a theme.
I like that.
Based on Joe's selection when we come back to get things started. It's great. It's me and Paul this morning on Ben & Woods on San Diego's #1 sports station. Still Vicky on traffic. Yep, Vicky Pepper in for Kelly with our first check of traffic this morning on 97.3 The Fan. We'll be right back. I can tell you that listener Joe's daily Ditty selection is Deep Dark Truthful Mirror by Elvis Costello, only because Paulie wrote it down in the chat. Otherwise, I probably would not have been able to identify that pick, but he won Take on Wood, so he gets the pick. But I'm going to choose the theme based on his song selection.
Elvis Costello.
And the theme
Deep
this
Dark
week,
Truthful Mirror.
Artists who are known for wearing glasses.
Okay.
When they perform, especially. I think that includes Elvis Costello.
That would be an identifier for Elvis Costello.
Just like I am an artist who wears glasses on stage when performing on both television and radio now.
You wear glasses.
I do wear glasses. And so does Elvis. And so will our selections this week for our Daily Ditty.
Okay.
At 6:20 each morning for our Song of the Day. A little breaking news, college football. I think we've had a third coach fired this weekend. This morning, Zach Arnett was just fired at Mississippi State. Joins, of course, Jimbo Fisher, the big one at Texas A&M, and Andy Avalos of Boise State, who were all fired over the weekend out as college football coaches.
I saw the push notification from ESPN about Zach Arnett. That's old friend alert. Zach Arnett.
That's right.
Frequent Ben and Woods guest way back in the day.
He was an assistant coach at San Diego State and one of our first somewhat regular guests when we talked San Diego State football. He was the defensive coordinator at San Diego State, went on to, I think, Washington State, and then went with Mike Leach to Mississippi State. And when Mike Leach died, he took over as the head coach, but I guess not going well enough for the alums and the boosters at Mississippi State. He is out. And, I mean, the stories this weekend, it's absolutely out of control what's going on in college football right now. I mean, you saw the buyout for Jimbo Fisher. That
insane.
They are paying, I think it's $78 million to get out of his contract and move on. He signed a $95 million contract extension a couple of years ago. And it's not like he's been terrible. He's been 45-25 as head coach at Texas A&M, but they simply didn't feel like they were getting better or making any waves in the SEC, and they said, we need to move on. And I appreciate the fact that they care enough that they want to be doing better. You should want to always be improving and getting better as a program. The crazy thing is, who are they going to go and hire, though, now? That is going to be able to make Texas A&M better than Alabama and LSU and Texas and Oklahoma, who are joining the SEC. There are just certain limitations that some schools have. Texas A&M, I think they were fourth in the country like 3 years ago when Jimbo Fisher got his big extension. They really gave it to him because they were worried he would go to LSU when they gave the job to Brian Kelly, so they gave him a giant ironclad, no offset money. I mean, even if he goes and signs a $50 million contract somewhere else, they still have to pay him the entire $78 million left on his contract. It's absolutely insane what's going on in college football right now. And I understand there's huge money, and I mean, if the coaches aren't going to get it, and obviously they don't want to give it to the players, who's going to keep all of that? The administrators at the college? That doesn't make a lot of sense. But as the cost of going to a sporting event just goes up, and parking and tickets and concessions and everything to go to, and we the fans ultimately pay for Jimbo Fisher's buyout. Now, I don't pay for it because I don't go to Texas A&M games. I don't really care, but basically, in the big scheme of things, all of these costs are passed on to fans one way or another.
Would you start paying to go to San Diego State games if that meant paying the buyout for Brady Hoke?
The more I think about it, I feel like it's crazy to pay these huge dollars for coaches nowadays. Are they really that
in any
big
sport
of
or college football?
In any sport, really. I mean, including college football, but the NFL, NBA, what are they doing that is who is such a difference maker as a coach right now? I'd invest, good, solid salaries for my coordinators. You want competent offensive and defensive coordinators who run good schemes, who are good teachers for the coaches, but it's weird. It's like radio. There's limited numbers of jobs out there. And they're coveted jobs. They're desired jobs. People like being football coaches. They like being in sports. Sure. Usually that pushes the cost of things down, right? Like, you don't get paid a ton in radio because it's a fun job and everyone wants to do it, and there's only a handful of them around.
Well, if you don't want to do it, they'll find somebody that'll do it for half your salary tomorrow.
Why does that not happen in the world of professional and college coaching as well? Really, Jimbo, you want $90 million? Where I bet I can find someone who can do the job almost as good as you can for 1/100th of that.
Yeah.
I don't understand how these salaries have gotten so incredibly out of hand. And again, I appreciate the dedication to winning. Boise State, in the same conference as San Diego State, the Mountain West, fired their coach in his third season, Andy Avalos. They were 5-5. They won like 51-13 or something on Saturday over New Mexico. So it wasn't like, oh, they just looked so horrible, we had to get rid of him. They just didn't think that he was living up to the standards that their program had set. Yet the Aztecs still have Brady Hoke as their head coach. He is now 10-13 the last 2 seasons. And this buyout of, close to $5 million seems prohibitive for San Diego State. Just shows you that San Diego State they're not playing the same sport as Texas A&M. If Texas A&M can buy out a coach for close to $80 million, right, and San Diego State has to nickel and dime on their, $4.8 million. It shows
the disparity across the playing field.
It's not even the same sport anymore. They're not playing the same game as the SEC schools of the world. And this isn't even one of the good SEC schools that can do this, that they can afford that would be 16 buyouts of Brady Hoke in one fell swoop, right, to move on from Jimbo Fisher. And San Diego State, can't really even pull the trigger. Nor, I don't know, should they? I mean, then you just go out and hire someone else. I wouldn't go and overpay for a coach if I was San Diego State. You
kind of have to, though. I mean, despite everything that you just said over the last 5 minutes, that's the way the game is played, at least today and moving forward.
I mean, you need a coach who's going to be able to bring in good enough players and recruit good enough players. Now,
yeah, and those
it helps if you've
high-profile coaches are going to cost a lot of money.
Yeah, it helps if you've got a name like Dion that can dazzle when he goes in and talks to parents and the kids and, I want to play for Prime. That's great. Well, San Diego State's not getting Dion or anyone on the level of Deion Sanders. So, at this point, just find a good coach with a good personality, who is going to be likable when he goes and visits kids and recruits them and puts together a nice system and tries to win some games, because
they had that coach. His name was Rocky Long.
Yeah, he was. He was not a sexy. He was never a sexy coach, but he won enough games. Did a pretty nice job as San Diego State coach.
Mountain West program.
And we still don't totally know why he left, other than he never really enjoyed being a head coach. Spent enough time with Rocky knowing what he would say off the air, like, I do not like this job. I mean, he did not like the other parts of the job other than coaching football. He hated it. He just hated it. And it's unfortunate that it didn't work out, because San Diego State is going in the wrong direction in football. Another loss, 7 out of 8. First losing season since 2009. No bowl game this year. Playing out the string with 2 more.
Not getting a bowl game is just...
It's so easy to get a bowl game nowadays.
Pathetic to not get one.
I mean, it used to be
you have to try to not get a bowl game these days.
Yeah, it used to be an accomplishment to get to a bowl game. It's not. It's basically... It's a sign of...
one extra game.
It's
more fun for the players.
Whatever. But if you don't get to a bowl game, it is a sign that your program has sunk to the lowest of lows, the depths of college football. If you can't get to a bowl game, you are completely headed in the wrong direction. And that's where San Diego State is right now. We'll talk about the Michigan coaching thing as well at some point, because that might even be crazier than the Jimbo Fisher buyout right now. What's going on with Jim Harbaugh and Michigan?
That all happened right after we got off the air on Friday.
Yeah.
Weird.
But let's take a time out. We'll come back. I want to get into some Padres news. Still looking for that new manager. Saw one of the managerial candidates cheering on a certain former football team that used to play here over the weekend. Some people are up in arms about that. I have a bit more of a measured take on Benji Heel cheering for the Chargers over the weekend. I see people talking about it in our chat. So we'll get to that coming up with Ben and Woods on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Pretty wild day in the NFL yesterday. Welcome back. It is Ben and Paul here on 97.3 The Fan. Woodsy is going to be off back on Wednesday morning. There were 5 different games, Paulie, that ended with field goals, with triple zeros on the clock, either breaking a tie or switching the team trailing to winning at the end of the game. Walk-off field goals.
Yeah.
Now, baseball, you get walk-offs. Like, one of the best parts of baseball are walk-off wins, bottom of the ninth, home run, everybody goes home happy. Football, you have them occasionally in overtime, the walk-off winners. Usually.
That was a record, wasn't it?
But yeah, this is the first time there's ever been 5 NFL games on the same Sunday that all ended with triple zeros on the clock, because sometimes you kick a field goal and there's like 20 seconds left and you still have to kick off, and
right.
The other team can't move it down the field, and that's how the game ends, or with a kneel
3
down.
3 seconds, and you just do a squib kick.
But yeah, you had 5 different games yesterday that ended on literal walk-off field goals as time expired, including the Detroit Lions. Dan Campbell's Detroit Lions, who went into SoFi Stadium, traded touchdown for touchdown with the LA Chargers in the second half, and won at 41-38 after a very gutsy fourth down call by, it's got to be like everybody's favorite coach in the NFL nowadays, Dan Campbell of the Detroit Lions.
7-2 now?
They're 7-2 now. So they were driving down, tie game 38-38, but they hadn't been able to stop Justin Herbert and the Chargers in the second half. The Chargers hadn't been able to stop the Lions offense. And they came down. It was 4th and 2. They were in field goal range, but there was still like a minute and a half, minute 40 left. And if they kicked the field goal, they would have taken likely a 41-38 lead. But they would have given the ball back to the Chargers, who, the way things were going, had plenty of time to drive down for at least a tying field goal, if not a winning touchdown. Instead, on 4th and 2, the Lions decided to go for it, and they converted the first down, and because the Chargers had no timeouts left, they were then able to kneel 3 times, get the clock down to 3 seconds, take a timeout, and then kick the winning field goal, not ever risking giving the ball back, putting it back in the hands of Justin Herbert. It was gutsy. If it had not gone well, I think Dan Campbell would have faced some criticism, but to me, it was 100% absolutely the right play. And not just because it worked, but you saw how the game was going. Your defense wasn't really stopping anybody. Keenan Allen had a monster game, 175 yards and 2 touchdowns. And he played it smart. Sometimes the smart thing doesn't always turn into a win, but in my mind, that was undoubtedly the smart thing to do. One of the people on hand who was disappointed and sad about
Mario
the Chargers losing. Well, Mario Lopez was one of them, probably. But it was Padres managerial candidate, Benji Heel. We'll get to his Chargers involvement this weekend after a check of traffic here on 97.3 The Fan.
From the 97.3 The Fan Traffic Center, here's Vicki Pepper.
15 South at Market got a report of smoke visible from the freeway. That may be catching some folks' attention, so use extra caution there. I'm Vicki Pepper, in for Kelly Danick with Ben and Woods, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
So I would be very hypocritical if I said I was mad at Benji Heel for cheering for the Chargers. Like I said, my dad still cheers for the Chargers. You feel how you feel. And if you cheered for that team your whole life and you couldn't give them up even after they moved, I understand. That's how you feel. And I don't have a problem with that. I see people in our chat saying, Joe Musgrove still cheers for the Chargers. We love Joe Musgrove. We don't hold it against him. He's still a San Diego guy. It's okay to cheer for the Chargers. I think it's a weird decision. It's kind of painful considering they're not a San Diego team anymore. Right. They do nothing but break your heart all the time. And I have never been happier as a football fan since giving them up a few years ago. And now I can watch and enjoy and laugh as they just lose close game after close game. And I think I'm happier than I've ever been as a football fan, really just cheering against the Chargers. I really have no other big-time rooting interest other than, watching them lose.
I don't even hate watch, but
I don't mind fun. If I miss the game.
It's fun to watch them falter and blow it in the fourth quarter, as they typically often do.
I happened to be watching yesterday. Did I want them to lose? Absolutely, I wanted them to lose in the end. And they just they almost never disappoint. It's crazy on those close games how they always find a way to kind of blow it in the end. And, to change coaches, it doesn't really change anything about what's going on. So yesterday, Benji Heel, and I didn't even know he was on social media, but I assume this is his Twitter account because he's in the picture, said, here at SoFi Stadium to support our Chargers, to go get that W. And he had all of his friends and family, looked like family members in the house. Diehard Bolt Club, he tagged in the tweet as well. So Benji Heel, still a Chargers fan. Grew up, Tijuana, Castle Park High School. Like most of us here in San Diego, we're Chargers fans. He stuck with them, went to the game, still cheering for the team. I don't have a problem with that. I know some Padres fans immediately said, well, that turns me completely off the idea of hiring Benji Heel as the new Padres manager. That's an overreaction to the situation.
I think it's weird to still root for the Chargers. That's my personal thoughts on the matter. I'm not going to remove you from my life if you're still remaining a Chargers fan. That's your prerogative. Like that's your decision. Personally, for me, I'm done with them. Cut the tie. Don't really care about the NFL in general anymore. But that's not going to hinder whether or not I think he's the right guy for the job for the Padres.
If he is, if you knew that Benji Heel was the right guy and he was going to go on and lead the Padres to tons of success as manager over the next few years, you'd be crazy to not want him to be the manager just because he cheers for the Chargers football team.
My opinion on Benji Hill is the same today as it was on Friday, that he is my top choice. If given the opportunity, I would like to see him as the manager of the Padres. That hasn't changed.
However, I will throw in, we don't know if Benji Heel is the right guy for the job. And he's right now trying to differentiate himself from Mike Schilt and Ryan Flaherty and Phil Nevin and who knows who else that A.J. Preller may have talked to that we don't even know about at this point.
Well, isn't there more to that? You mentioned the John Paul Morosi tweet from last night, earlier in the show. He said, Padres expected to announce a managerial change midweek. But then at the end, he said they're still talking to other external candidates. What was the phrase?
Yeah,
mystery candidates.
Yeah, it wasn't mystery, but it was like external candidates that aren't Schilt and
still
Flaherty.
Being considered.
Yeah. The national reporting on the Padres has been very underwhelming in my mind. Everything that I see just seems like a lot of guesswork and, AJ's unpredictable, so let me tweet this. It probably won't be right, but it'll sound kind of right if I tweet it out. I mean, that's what it feels like a lot of the national reporting on the Padres is right now. If Benji Heel is the right guy, great. And he may be the correct guy for this job, but he's trying to differentiate himself as a candidate at the moment. And one thing that Benji has going for him, I think, at least in the court of public opinion, San Diego guy, Chula Vista, Castle Park High School, Tijuana. He's got that local flair that we do love here in San Diego. There's no doubt about it that we as sports fans in San Diego,
maybe more than any other city in America,
love a good San Diego connection. I'm as guilty of it as anyone. When you post publicly, though, on the weekend when presumably A.J. Preller is making his final decision as to who the Padres manager, and I don't know that A.J. is considering this at all. But when you post publicly that you're supporting an L.A. football team on this very weekend, that's a choice that you put out there into the universe. I don't think it's going to cost Benji Heel the job, but it added a level of, if he gets the job, adds just a little level of, of headache that he didn't need, that he didn't have to deal with. He could have gone to that game. Don't think anyone would have noticed or tweeted, hey, look who's at this Chargers game. I think, isn't that Mexico WCBC manager Benji Heel who's at this game? He could have gone anonymously in Los Angeles. No one would have ever known about it. Go cheer for your team. Don't have a problem with it. By tweeting about it, though, you are adding that level of attention that you probably didn't need to put in there. at the last minute. Now, do I think that AJ is going to go, I was just about to hire him, now I'm not? Of course not. That would be nuts. That would be ridiculous to not hire Benji Heel because he went to a Chargers game this weekend.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to have any impact on the decision.
Would I have tweeted about it if I was Benji Heel going to a Chargers game this particular weekend? Would I have maybe tried to show more of a understanding of the sports landscape in San Diego and the polarizing nature of the Los Angeles Chargers before I publicly attached myself to that team as I'm trying to become the manager of the San Diego Padres? Yeah, I probably would have thought twice before hitting send on that particular tweet yesterday.
Go to the game next weekend.
Fine.
Or in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he's probably... I have not scrubbed Benji Heel's Twitter account to see how many times he's posted from a Chargers game over the years. Maybe it would be easy to go back and, oh yeah, he's gone to a half a dozen games every year and he posts from every single one of them. Right. So you can't really hide it. If it's out there, it's out there. The timing of it, though, was, I think, an unnecessary misstep.
I mean, I guess
by Benji Heel.
I didn't take it that way. I know a lot of people did. I guess maybe it's apples and oranges, but we brought up Joe Musgrove. Like, Joe is still a Chargers fan. Joe goes to Charger games at SoFi Stadium still. He was a Charger fan when he signed in San Diego or got traded or whatever it was a couple of years ago. And that didn't change anything for anybody's opinion of Joe. So why should it hinder anyone's opinion of Benjamin Hill?
Antonio chimes in on our YouTube chat. I mean, the Chargers were originally from San Diego. Maybe he's just following the team since San Diego doesn't have a football team anymore. Thank you, Magic Johnson. Yes, I think that is exactly. He was a fan of the team when they were in San Diego, and like many, he still follows them because we don't have another team to follow. So, just trying to make the best of the situation. I get why he's cheering for the LA Chargers. I really do. It's not, I don't have a problem with that. I just feel like it was a self-inflicted, just shoot your toe. I mean, you don't need the little toe, but you just kind of shot your toe right there for no reason whatsoever as you're trying to become the manager of the San Diego Padres. That's all I'm saying. Doesn't disqualify him from the job.
Like if we were able to find out whether or not that post, those pictures of him at a Chargers game, actually has any impact on whether or not he gets the job as the manager of the Padres, that would be such a massive red flag on the organization.
It doesn't. If he does get the job, will there be at least some people in San Diego
who cares about the court of public opinion is going to, we're going to be outraged no matter what. People will be mad if Benjamin Hill gets the job, if Ryan Flaherty gets the job, if Mike Schilt gets the job, if Phil Nevin gets the job. It's like 50-50.
Did you just call him Benjamin Hill?
Benjamin Hill.
Hill. It's not Benny Hill.
Benny Hill.
We are really going to struggle with what to call him.
Well, I keep going to Benji Gill, and then as the words are coming out,
honestly, if he gets the job, first question is, Benji, just please tell us exactly how you want us to say your name from here.
We're going to say it a lot.
And if he says, doesn't matter to me, whatever, I'm going to go, no. You will tell us exactly how you want us to say your name, and that is how we are going to say it going forward. I don't want any of this, whatever you feel like. It's a name. Everybody has a name and how they want it pronounced. It's not, Reindl, doesn't matter to me. No, it's your name. Say it the right way. Tell us the right way, though. We can't just inherently know what the right way. Never mind. I think we should have a manager here. I wouldn't be surprised if the news leaks from some, a passing type tweet, maybe even later today. Padres may confirm it tonight or tomorrow, and then maybe a news conference on Wednesday sort of thing. I mean, it's got to happen. It's got to happen pretty soon.
What are we?
There's not much more information you can add to the equation.
Again, we know the four candidates, and then there was Morosi's reporting yesterday of still considering other mysterious dark horse candidates or whatever. But it's pretty much down to four guys, two of which have been in your organization for years now. You know them pretty well. I just don't know what we're waiting on here. Like, make a decision.
I mean,
let's go.
Contract,
let's move on.
Is there contract talks involved? I don't know what's going on
I feel
behind
like if
the
we were
scenes,
at that
but-
point, something would have gotten leaked out, though, still.
All right, we'll have some more Padres talk coming up. Free agent news, a little Ken Rosenthal this morning on Blake Snell, just a note or two about possibilities for him in the offseason. Also wanted to go through, he posted this last week. We didn't get to it. Eno Saris has some under-the-radar free agents. Padres will certainly need to fill their roster, but it sounds like they can't do it with the top-line guys. So who are some of the under-the-radar free agents that the Padres or other teams could be interested in? We'll get to that coming up. Play some Take on Woods. Well, actually, let's do real or fake since Joss is not here and Woods is not here. Play real or fake and try to qualify someone for a trip to Las Vegas. Coming up next, talk about the Aztecs' loss at BYU on Friday night. All ahead here on 97.3 The Fan. think I'm starting to just get immune to horrific sports weekends in San Diego. They just come and go, and
Wasn't great.
I barely even notice it. But yeah, it was another actual horrible sports weekend here. Welcome back. It's Ben and Paul on 97.3 The Fan. Woodsy's off today. This segment of Ben and Woods is brought to you by the Golf Mart. You're going to play some real or fake here in a couple of minutes if you want to try to get online to qualify for a getaway to Las Vegas without challenging Woods in our musical trivia game. 833-288-0973. Get to that in a couple of minutes. Talked about the Aztecs losing in football on Saturday at Colorado State. Doesn't really register much for me, but seeing San Diego State lose in basketball on Friday night, that hurts a little bit more, especially at BYU, longtime rival. And it was a pretty good game. I watched the whole thing on ESPN Plus on Friday night. Aztecs looked good at times when they took an early lead, first half of the first half. They looked good, and then the bench came in, and the depth. They were down to just, I think, 9 scholarship players to start the game because of a couple of injuries, so didn't have a lot of depth, and you could see that the inexperienced guys who were coming off the bench and the altitude of Provo, Utah started to take effect. BYU went on a big run in the second half of the first half. Aztecs pulled within, I think, 5 at halftime, and then they rest at halftime, come back with their starters to start the second half, and boom, Aztecs jump right back out in front. Looks like, they're going to cruise. They're going to take this game over, and they're going to win. But same thing happened. They bring in some of the subs. The altitude starts to hit, and the shots stopped falling, and BYU came back and eventually pulled away in the end for the win. The final was 74-65 on Friday night, and unfortunately, we'll find out in a couple of hours, but my guess is the way the top 25 rankings work that the Aztecs, it'll cost them their spot in the top 25 this morning, probably be outside the rankings after losing. Another good game for Jaden Ledee, 21 points, 7 rebounds.
He's looking good.
He does. He's pretty dominant underneath. Reese Waters had 15 points. Darion Trammell, even though the ESPN Plus announcers didn't know how to say his name, did make his season debut. He came off the bench after that shoulder injury, did score 7 points. Unfortunately, that was 7 of the entire 9 total bench points that the Aztecs had in the game. BYU had 3 players off the bench who combined for 42 on their own. You're not going to win a lot of games when you're giving up 42 off the bench to 3 guys on the other team, and you score 9 total for the entire game. So starters versus starters, San Diego State dominated BYU in that game. They absolutely dominated BYU when the starters were out on the court. Wasn't even a match. Unfortunately, you can't play your starters 40 minutes, especially at altitude in Provo, Utah. That game was at Viejas Arena. Aztecs win, and they win handily. But in Provo, in front of 19,000 screaming BYU fans at 4,500 feet early in the season with a bunch of inexperienced freshmen coming off the bench that have not played much college basketball, that's the kind of game that you're vulnerable to and you lose. So ultimately, I didn't have a problem. I wasn't mad about the way they played necessarily. It was a good game. Both teams fought really hard. You could tell they both wanted to win. Both coaches had their teams ready to play. I enjoyed watching it. If I had one complaint, that's bad scheduling by Brian Dutcher. And he said last week,
making the decision to go there, or in general, or
early in the
second game,
early in the season with this particular team. And I get these matchups are kind of planned out a couple of years in advance, but he said himself last week, I should have my head examined. We're 4-30 in Provo, but BYU comes to Viejas last year and you beat them, so you got to give them a return game. But early in the season, with that inexperienced team coming off the bench in that environment, you set yourself up for a loss in that game. Now, it's not going to cost them a spot in the NCAA tournament. They weren't even favored to win the game. The headline was BYU upset San Diego State because, San Diego State has a number in front of their name, or did, number 17, and BYU didn't.
Right.
But it's not an upset when you're favored by 3 points. That's the favorite actually won the game, and San Diego State did not pull off the upset at BYU. So the narrative gets a little confused in college basketball, but that was a loss that you lose because of scheduling.
It's not one of those losses where you schedule Kansas on the road in your early non-conference and you lose that one. You were supposed to lose.
Right.
It's a good loss to have, quote unquote.
It was a winnable game, which is what makes it hurt a little bit more. It was a very winnable game that San Diego State, they got out-rebounded. They turned the ball over a few too many times, missed a couple of free throws. There was one particular sequence late where I think the Aztecs had a one-on-one. They could have pulled within, I think it was 2 or 1. And they missed the front end. They fouled on the rebound. BYU made the one-on-one on the other end, and all of a sudden it's like a 5-point game instead of a 1-point game. Yeah. It was a huge turning point, I thought, late in the game.
I just never felt like the Aztecs were ever in control or going. Like, I just didn't have the confidence. Like, they didn't play poorly. They just never took control of the game, and I never felt like, oh, they've got this. They're going to win this game. But ultimately, yeah, that's a tough scheduling decision to make. And I guess for me, I just have a little bit of trauma going back to, is it 2018, 2019? Like, the Mountain West is so bad.
Breaking news.
You got breaking news?
I got breaking news. Sorry. Brady Hoke has just stepped down as San Diego State's head football coach. They're referring to it as a retirement. Brady Hoke is retired as head coach. I've never heard a coach necessarily retire with 2 games left in the season, but he will coach the last 2 games and then step down, according to San Diego State in a release that they just sent out at this moment. Quote from Brady Hoke: "I'm proud of what we accomplished at San Diego State. I'm grateful to all the great student athletes I've had the chance to work with, molding them into men, husbands, fathers, and pillars in the community. I will always cherish my time leading this program. I'd also like to thank the wonderful staff I've worked with and wish them the best in the future." Not addressed as I'm scanning this release is what that means for the buyout that, we've been told was a figure that would be troublesome for San Diego State to pay out. Does a retirement mean that he's not taking all the money? I'd be very surprised if Brady Hoke isn't getting his money one way or another. Maybe he's agreed to defer some of the payments to make this a little bit easier and call it a retirement as opposed to just getting fired from the job. But
I would almost say, make no mistake, he's being fired here. This is he's not. He's retiring, but that's the.
He's not 75 years old. He still could be coaching if he wanted to. But
that's you, Johnny listener. That's you getting fired, but your company still appreciates the work that you've done, and they're going to let you say that you quit so that it doesn't show up on your resume as fired.
Yeah, I've got to imagine that the pressure of seeing Boise State fire their head coach despite being 5-5 and still have a chance to get to the conference championship game at this point, made it very hard for San Diego State to make any other argument other
can't fire me if I retire.
Then Brady Hoke has to go as the head coach. If you're trying to establish a certain level of success, if you're trying to brand yourself as a program, a school that belongs in a power conference, you can't be in last place in the Mountain West. And right now, San Diego State is in last place in the Mountain West in football. It's embarrassing for the program. It's the right thing to do, and I applaud
the Mountain
San Diego State and Brady Hoke this morning. It had to happen, and now it has happened. Brady Hoke will be out as head coach of the San Diego State Aztecs. Just wrapping up the basketball talk, I just wanted to say, they can turn that loss into a win if they use it to get better. If they use it to address some of the things that didn't go well, use that experience of a hostile environment, and turn that into a couple of wins later in the season, I'm okay with an early season loss. By the way, San Diego State, remember they went to the Final Four last year? They lost some games on the way. It's not like they won 32 straight and then got to the Final Four.
The point I was making during the Hoke announcement there was, I think it was 2018, whatever. They went 19-2 in conference play, but a couple of early non-conference games that they lost ended up being the difference on them not getting in to the tournament because the Mountain West was so bad that 19-2 was like, who cares? Doesn't matter.
Yeah, a loss can be very useful for a coach, especially early in the season. And I have no doubt that Dutch is going to find a way to use this to make his team better. Aztecs are back at home tomorrow night against Long Beach State, 7 o'clock tip-off at Viejas Arena. What made Friday night a little more painful was seeing Keyshawn Johnson lead Arizona to an upset of number 2 Duke at Cameron Indoor at Duke in Raleigh. That was an impressive win, and that NIL money coming into play there to lure Keyshawn Johnson away. He could have been that depth difference that the Aztecs needed in a game like that against BYU, but they were able to pay him more at Arizona, and now Arizona reaping the benefits of an experienced Keyshawn Johnson in their lineup as they beat Duke on Friday night. All right, we got the breaking news out of the way. Brady Hoke out as head coach at San Diego State. Got a caller on the line. Let's get to today's game of real or fake.
Some are here for the compelling sports talk with Ben and Woods. If you can go plow through another donut. It's time for Real or Fake on 97.3 The Fan. Tell the people what they'll win today.
I will do so as soon as I welcome Sean onto the program. Good morning, Sean. How are you?
Good morning, guys. How you doing?
We're good.
What's up, Sean?
We're good. Big segment here. We got breaking news, everything happening, and a chance for you to qualify for a trip for 2 to Resorts World Las Vegas. 2 tickets to Luke Bryan, who is headlining in another engagement at Resorts World Theater, December 29th through January 6th. Tickets on sale now at rwlasvegas.com. But if you can just get 4 out of 7 right on real or fake, we're going to put you into the drawing for the grand prize. Sean, you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Announced last week, you might remember I mentioned this story, the San Diego Mojo are the newest team in the Pro Volleyball Federation. They'll begin play on February 1st. Sean, I have a list of the other PVF franchises. I will give you a team name. You just have to tell me if it's a real or fake Pro Volleyball Federation team. You ready, Sean?
I'm ready.
All right, round 1. The Portland Spikers. Real or fake?
I'm going to go with real.
That is absolutely fake. That was almost too obvious. That's okay, Sean. You don't have Woods here to help you. I don't know how helpful Woods would have been for this one anyway. That's okay. We get lots of comebacks in this game. Round number 2. The Omaha Supernovas. Real or fake, Sean?
I'm going to go fake.
That one is real. It's a weird name, but yeah. All right, we're 0 for 2. We need to get on a little bit of a run here. All right, Sean, here we got round 3. You got this one. The Orlando Valkyries. Real or fake, Sean?
Fake.
Paulie? This is not going well for Sean so far.
Gotta
He
go
is
4-0.
0 for 3, which means, you need to get the last 4
Got to win out.
all correct. All right, Sean. Round 4, Pro Volleyball Federation franchises. The Santa Barbara Seahorses. Real or fake, Sean?
Fake. Fake.
Polly.
Well done.
All right, that's
I
one.
got to give him 1.
I think he would have gotten. I hope that he would have gotten
Wasn't go-
Santa
it
Barbara.
wasn't trending
It
that
wasn't
way.
going- It's true. All right, that's 1. Round 5. Here we go. The Atlanta Vibe. Real or fake? The Atlanta Vibe.
Fake.
This is just not Sean's day, is it? No.
Oh, Sean.
I mean, you got a mojo. You kind of have to have a vibe in the league.
Thanks
When
for
the
playing.
vibe take on the mojo, you know S is about to happen in pro volleyball, Paulie. That is it. Sorry, Sean. You have played. You have tried. You have failed. The game is over for you today on Real or Fake. I had a couple more fake ones I didn't even get to. I thought these were pretty good. The Phoenix Saguaros. I would have been fooled by that one.
Yeah.
And I love this one, the Austin Lassos, which I thought was really a cool sounding
Knowing
name.
you, I think I would have said fake.
That
on
is fake, but I honestly, if they put a team in Austin, I'm trademarking that. The Austin Lassos would be a terrific women's volleyball team, made up a lot of like former University of Texas volleyball stars. Perfect for the. All right, we'll try to qualify someone. I think we're going to play Take on Joss tomorrow. She's supposed to be back.
I'll be back. Yep.
So we'll have a chance to qualify someone for Las Vegas tomorrow. All right, Brady Hoke is out as head coach at San Diego State. That's the breaking news. We'll get to some Don't Do This coming up next. Actually have I actually have a couple of stories. One from college football, actually, over the weekend that I was going to drop on you. One of the dumbest things you can do on a football field.
Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about.
From your neck of the woods up there in the Seattle area where it happened as well.
I had a lot of friends not happy with that play.
It's coming up next with Ben and Paul on San Diego's #1 sports station, back after traffic here on 97.3 The Fan. Always a couple of stories that make you shake your head here this morning on Don't Do This. By the way, you can tune in to Kickoff with Boomer and Valenti every Friday night, 6 p.m. here on 97.3 The Fan, previewing all the big games of the weekend in the NFL. It is presented nationally by Casamigos, brought to you by those who drink it, and by Lowe's. Lowe's knows home improvement. If you missed it, the breaking news, Brady Hoke announces his retirement as San Diego State head coach, effective at the end of the season after these last two games, not just in the last few minutes. All right, I will get us started. Hit and run drivers, always a don't do this.
That's an easy way to get on to don't do this.
I mean, it's bad when you nick someone's fender and you don't leave a note. It's even worse when you slam into an all-star NBA player and you don't even stop. But that's what happened to the 76ers' Kelly Oubre Jr. on Saturday night. He was walking near his home when a car that was traveling at a high rate of speed, described as silver in color, going over the speed limit, tried to make a turn south onto the street that he was crossing. And the vehicle hit him in the upper chest area with the driver's side mirror. Oubre suffered a broken rib, went to the hospital. The driver never stopped, didn't even check to see what he hit, and went on. Oubre obviously is going to be out for a while. They say it's not, fortunately, a season-ending thing. He'll be reevaluated in a week. He's back home now doing okay, according to Nick Nurse, head coach of the Philadelphia 76ers. But that could have been even worse. Bad story as it is, but could have been even worse. Nice thing about that one is Tyrese Maxey went out and scored 50 for the Sixers last night, dedicated it to his teammate. And the Sixers, by the way, undefeated since trading James Harden, whereas the Los Angeles Clippers are winless since acquiring
still looking for number
James
one.
Harden. He is now 0-4 in their lineup as they lost again yesterday to the Memphis Grizzlies at home, 105-101. I don't know why. Why does anyone even want James Harden at this point?
I don't know.
I've
never understood.
There was a highlight going around yesterday, Paulie. He was dribbling, doing the James Harden thing out beyond the three-point line. Stopped to dribble and reached and touched the bottom of his shoe, wiped off his hand on the bottom of his shoe, and then went up for the three-pointer. Would have been a real cool, Steph Curry maneuver had he not airballed it and completely missed it. So, I don't know. The Clippers, I've got to feel like they're already starting to regret
Yeah, it's the James
the
Harden
James
experience.
Harden deal. Yeah.
All right, let's go college football. Oh, my God. On Saturday, Washington linebacker Alfonso Tuputala was on his way for pick six.
It wasn't a fumble return?
Was it a fumble return?
I think you picked it up. It was
pick
going to be a 77-yard
the defensive touchdown.
defensive touchdown, yeah. And it was in a critical part of the game. Washington was up 5.
Yes.
So this would have put them up 2 scores, almost iced it against ranked Utah. Big game in the Pac-12.
He is gone. Reservations for 6. Nobody around him. And he pulled a Deshaun Jackson. He started his celebration just a little early and dropped the football as he was about to run into the end zone, but not in the end zone entirely. In fact, he dropped it on the 2-yard line. The ball didn't even bounce into the end zone where it could have been recovered by a Husky player.
Well, there was 3 Huskies players who just ran by it as well.
They all thought he was in.
Yeah.
And so they just ran right past this ball that's just sitting on the 2-yard line, celebrating the touchdown. And Utah goes, wait a second, and they dive on the ball. And guess what? Utah football.
In a, he was too cool for school. He was so concerned with looking cool
man.
as he crossed into the end zone so nonchalantly. I'm not going to spike it. I'm not going to go crazy. I'm simply just going to drop the ball and look so cool. Doesn't look cool when you drop it on the 1.5-yard line, dude.
Oh my God, that guy has got to just be in the torture chamber.
I mean, there's one giant saving grace. Washington went on and won the game anyway. If they didn't, because can he even show up in class?
You're a top 5
you
team
can't.
right now.
If they had lost that game, and they could have, Utah got the ball. If they driven down the field, took the lead, and won that game, and you cost not only an undefeated season, a chance to go to the college football playoffs, all because you couldn't be bothered to take that last step and cross the goal line with the football, you would never live that down the rest of your life. He's going to be, they're going to be showing and making fun of him now, but because they won the game, he can kind of laugh it off and go, yeah, I was a moron. That was stupid. But if they had lost that game, he pretty much has to drop out of school and transfer, right?
You're done.
The worst.
Oh.
All right. Well, it wouldn't be Ben and Paul without Woods if I didn't bring up golf at least once.
DD mega doo-doo.
But this is an incredible story. So they're playing the fall season right now, the fall FedEx Cup finish, which aren't big tournaments, but it's still, it's real PGA Tour events. And they were at the Butterfield Bermuda Championship yesterday, where Camilo Villegas won the tournament by 2 shots over Alex Noren. And the reason why it's a do this is the first win for Camilo Villegas since his 22-month-old daughter died of brain cancer in 2020. And when that happened, as you can imagine, his life went into a downward spiral. He lost his tour card. He was struggling. He wasn't even making cuts on the Korn Ferry Tour. The golf game left him. I mean, you've got to feel like, the gods have forsaken you when a tragedy like that happens. And I mean, he was just in a world of hurt, but he has he's turned his daughter's passing into a foundation to help raise money and awareness and fight cancer. And he's gotten his golf game back, and he finished, I think, second last week, and now this week he comes through and wins for the first time in 4 years. It's a really great story for Camilo Villegas and a really good story for the PGA Tour. And I know no one's paying attention to golf this time of year when football's on, and you got basketball and college and off-season baseball signings. But I had to point that out because I thought that was really special and spectacular yesterday in a very little promoted tournament, but a win for Camilo Villegas yesterday.
Awesome.
And that is Don't and Do This for a Monday.
That was Don't Do This with Ben and Woods on 97.3 The Fan.
All right, if you want to join us when we come back, 833-288-0973. Not sure if you've got any thoughts on the Brady Hoke news, the retirement. Not calling it a firing, but one way or another, he's out as San Diego State football coach. What direction should the Aztecs go? I've already seen people tweeting, like, I got to get Cliff Kingsbury. I don't know that you want to just jump in and overpay someone else for the job. You got to get this hire right. J.D. Wicker has got to get the next hire right at San Diego State. You can join us, 833-288-0973. I also want to get into some of the free agent news in baseball. Had Ken Rosenthal drop a little info on Blake Snell this morning that's new. We haven't gotten to that yet, so that is all coming up with Ben and Woods on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. during the break, just quickly, as they're going out to cover the retirement of Brady Hoke as Aztecs head coach. And that's what it's being framed as right now. It's Ben and Paul here on 97.3 The Fan. It's being framed as a retirement by the San Diego State athletic department. And, you see some tweets going out. Kirk Morrison, hey, thank you, coach. This is... You can't spin this as a celebration of Brady Hoke's long and successful career. You can thank him for the contributions he made to the program. Absolutely. And Brady Hoke did some things, especially his first go-around when came in for, remember, 2 seasons before really Rocky Long did all the long and lasting hard work. Right. And then he came back and kind of, lucked into the job when Rocky left suddenly and was just already there on staff as a defensive line coach. Had one really, really good season where they won 12 games. That parlayed into a nice fat contract extension, and then the last 2 years have been pretty disappointing. This year, as I said, they're in last place in the Mountain West. That should never, ever happen if you're San Diego State. I understand the realities. Hey, it's NIL, and San Diego State just can't compete. Sure, when you're talking about San Diego State versus Alabama or San Diego State versus Michigan, they can't compete. They should be able to compete against Utah State and New Mexico and Colorado State and Fresno State and Nevada. And right now, competing against those schools who have all the same, if not more, NIL difficulties, because you have at least San Diego to sell. You got a new stadium. You've got beautiful weather here. You've got more things to sell than any other program in your conference. You should consistently be at the top of the Mountain West. I mean, you don't have to win it every year, but you should be battling it out with Boise State and Fresno State at the top every single year. You cannot be at the bottom of the Mountain West. You have advantages over the other schools. You have a Final Four basketball program that has been unbelievably well supported now for 20-plus years. There is no excuse for not putting together, at least on a Mountain West level, a successful football program. You should be so successful that, the Big 12 and the Pac-12 should have been knocking down your door, not just for your basketball program, but for your football program as well. And you have never been able to get there.
As bad and uninspiring as San Diego State football has been and can be to watch, to be at the bottom of the Mountain West standings,
yeah,
I mean, that is just atrocious. Like, that's something I never thought I'd see.
So this whole hoo-ha about Brady Hoke's retirement.
Make no mistake, if he's 6-3, if the Aztecs are 6-3 right now, he's not retiring. So
right. And the proof will be in the pudding. If he was truly retiring, and J.D. Wicker was, oh, please don't go. We can't live without you. No, I'm walking away from all my guaranteed money. You keep it. I am ready to go and live on a yacht somewhere and just enjoy my retirement years. The proof will be in the pudding, and I guarantee, I don't make that many guarantees, I guarantee that one way or another, Brady Hoke is getting the lion's share of his money that is guaranteed to him, as if he were fired today as head coach at San Diego State. Call it what you want. Retirement, whatever. Brady Hoke has been fired as the football coach at San Diego State, as he should, because his team is in last place in a conference that he should always be top 3 in every single year. Even, I know you have to reload, and you got young players that come in. A successful football program builds on itself and continues to put quality products year after year. You can't be losing to Colorado State. You can't be losing to Utah State. You can't be losing 49-3 to Air Force or whatever the final score of that game was. By the way, Air Force that then lost to Army and then lost to Hawaii. I mean, they're having a ridiculously bad season. This is not some celebration of Brady Hoke. Thank you for your contributions, Coach. It's time to move on to someone else. All right. If you want to join us, 833-288-0973. We'll check traffic. Got some free agent news dropping this morning from Ken Rosenthal, including some Blake Snell news coming up on 97.3 The Fan.
From the 97.3 The Fan Traffic Center, here's Vicky Pepper.
15 south at Lilac Bridge, a crash in the center divider. Then at Rio Rancho, a ladder in the carpool and left lane. Northbound at Miramar, some rigid insulation in the fast lane. I'm Vicki Pepper in for Kelly Danick with Ben and Woods, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
All right. Even though the Padres don't have a manager, they are certainly already looking and planning what they're trying to do to beef up this roster with so many pitching defections. It certainly doesn't look like that, Blake. I mean, have you heard even like a hint that the Padres are thinking of bringing back Blake Snell?
I haven't heard anything. I haven't seen anything.
Honestly,
I would assume they're going to make an offer.
I think it would be, I don't know. I mean, I would consider it now a giant upset if Blake Snell was a member of the Padres next season.
Yeah, I think that's fair. But, I mean, they're still going to, whether it's a complete lowball offer, they got to make an offer.
Yeah. And now this is not news or anything, but Ken Rosenthal wrote in The Athletic this morning that the Atlanta Braves are one of the, many teams that are looking for starting pitching, but they're actually in the top end market for starting pitching, thanks to the fact that they haven't had to pay their stars a giant sums of money. They have such good, affordable contracts for, Acuna and Albies and some of their other players, even Matt Olson. I mean, no one's making more than $22 million for the Atlanta Braves per season, which is, when you think about it, compared to what some of the Padres are making per year, it's pretty crazy. But they can actually afford to go out and sign some high-end pitching talent. And Ken Rosenthal thought that Aaron Nola might be a possibility for the Atlanta Braves, but he said it looks like they might want someone with a little more swing and miss capability than Aaron Nola, who's kind of taken a couple of steps back the last couple of years, and he thinks that Blake Snell might be someone that the Atlanta Braves make a hard push for this offseason. He writes, one unknown with Snell is how he would adapt. Now, Philadelphia is also, he says, interested maybe in signing Snell, especially if they lose Nola this offseason. He says, how would he adapt to the intensity of Philadelphia after spending his entire career in the low-key Tampa Bay and San Diego markets? But if the Phillies don't sign Nola, what would be their top-of-the-rotation free agent options? Yoshinobu Yamamoto, who is the Japanese star who's going to be posted, would appear to be a long shot. The Phillies have not had a Japanese player since 2008. So, NL East, a possibility. Braves or Phillies for Blake Snell. We've, of course, talked about a potential return to Seattle, which culturally fits for Blake Snell, but I don't know that the Mariners are in any position to jack up payroll for Blake Snell. I mean, they've been
$1 million or something.
They've been much more financially responsible than even the Padres over the years when it comes to their free agents.
I don't know what this really means, but Rosenthal also noted that the Braves don't have a single Scott Boras client on their roster.
Interesting. Is that a philosophical decision or simply just the way it's kind of worked out? Because they have superstars on their team.
I would imagine it's just the way it worked out.
I would think
That's
so.
kind of shocking, though, with the amount of the star power that they have. That not one player on their team is repped by Scott Boras. But, if they need pitching and, Corbin Burns, Blake Snell, those are Boras clients.
So the Padres, of course, have not had any trouble working with Scott Boras. Maybe a little too little trouble working with Scott Boras when it comes to some of their signings.
With Scott Boras.
But one other Boras client who could be available, not in free agency this offseason, but in a trade, is Corbin Burns. And now that the Milwaukee Brewers have already decided they're not paying for their manager, and they've got 1 year left on Corbin Burns. Is Corbin Burns a possibility for the San Diego Padres this offseason in a trade? Would certainly change the nature of the pitching rotation. You've got Yu Darvish and Joe Musgrove coming back, and then nothing after that at this point. But if you started me out with Yu Darvish, Joe Musgrove, and Corbin Burns, all right, now all of a sudden, that's a formidable, at least playoff rotation. If you can get there, that's a formidable playoff rotation. Now, I know what you're thinking. Here we go again. Oh, Ben's ready to trade off all of the young talent for one season of Corbin Burns.
Oh, boy, here we go.
I've got a different idea. Bear with me here. And I know this one won't be popular either. But if you have to save some money, And, Buster Olney said it over the weekend. He said Padres have to trade Juan Soto. I don't know that I believe it, but if you have to save some money, and Juan Soto's scheduled to make about $33 million in arbitration, Corbin Burns is only going to make about $14. That's almost $20 million in savings just with those two players right now. Now, I don't think the Brewers are interested in paying Juan Soto $33 million, but you might be able to get enough prospects from another team in a three-way trade that the Brewers get the prospects, the Juan Soto goes to whatever contender wants him, and the Padres get the pitching they need for a season in Corbin Burns. Is that something that Paul Reindl would entertain as a potential blockbuster this offseason for the Padres?
I am firmly in the do not trade Juan Soto camp. And I just don't see a trade package coming back that would make me change my mind.
That's a valid opinion.
I thought you were going to say, hey, maybe they throw Jackson Merrill in the trade and get Corbin Burns. I'd rather entertain that conversation.
I don't know that just Jackson Merrill is going to get it done.
I understand. I'm just throwing names out there.
But let's say you keep Juan Soto and you acquire Corbin Burns because you trade Jackson Merrill and maybe Jacob Marcy, who just won the Arizona Fall League MVP award over the weekend. You trade those guys. Now you're paying $33 million for Soto and $14 million or so for Burns. Now your payroll is going up from last season. If that truly is not a possibility, I'm saying I agree with you. I want to keep Juan Soto, but if they can't, if they have to save money, is that something you would consider? If it is like dictated that there's AJ's hands are tied and he can't find any way to keep Juan Soto, he's got to save some cash. Would you rather he trade Juan Soto just for the prospects to reload the Padres' own farm system and maybe some pitching depth, or would you rather see him try to get the superstar Corbin Burns in some three-way trade where the Brewers get all the prospects and the Padres at least get a superstar pitcher for a year instead of their superstar slugger for a year?
I mean, in that particular hypothetical that they have to trade Juan Soto,
I agree with you. I'd
rather keep him.
I don't think you should trade Juan Soto.
Year.
I don't think you should trade Juan Soto unless you have to trade him.
I'm not in the business of punting seasons. And even if it's 1 year, even if he says I'm not staying here, I'm not signing a long-term extension, great. We're going to ride it out with one more year, a contract year, by the way, for one of the best hitters in all of baseball, and we're going to keep this window of opportunity open. I am not interested in losing a year of Manny Machado's prime as he continues to get older, Xander Bogaerts, Yu Darvish, Joe Musgrove, etc. I'm
not talking about trading Juan Soto because you're worried about losing him for nothing.
Your
question
at the end of the year. Is if you had to trade Juan Soto, would you rather trade him for
I'm saying
Corbin
that
Carroll or prospects?
Whatever financial considerations are going on right now, whether it's the debt service rules, and Major League Baseball is basically holding a sword over Peter's head and said, if you don't reduce the payroll to $200 million, we're taking away the team or something crazy. And they have to, because there's no option other than trading Juan Soto. Would you rather do it for prospects, or would you rather save $20 million and at least get a frontline starting pitcher for a year?
In those two scenarios, I would choose trading for Corbin Carroll or Corbin Burns.
Well, I'll take Corbin Carroll too.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind him. It'd be great. If it's you have gun to your head, you got to trade Juan Soto. It's either a package of prospects or Corbin Burns. Give me Burns. Okay. But again, ultimately, I'm not trading Juan Soto. Even if he says directly to everyone's faces, I have no interest in ever signing a long-term extension here in San Diego. Great. Ride it out this 1 year. Try to put together a team that can get you to the playoffs. Ride with the four that you got again at the top of your order. See what happens.
Is it possible that the 2024 Padres, just the 2024 Padres, are actually a better, more balanced team with Corbin Burns in their rotation than Juan Soto in their lineup?
No.
Not at all?
Not to me.
I mean, they're so lacking in pitching, though. And this really does change the complexion of the pitching rotation completely if you get burned. The Padres lineup is still good without Juan Soto. It's much better with Juan Soto, but it's still pretty good. Like top heavy, but you still have Manny and Fernando and Xander. I mean, there's still good players in your lineup you have Ha-Seong Kim without Juan Soto. You've got nothing besides Musgrove and Darvish in pitching for next season.
I apologize because it's not great sports talk radio debate mindset to just be so close-minded in your stance here, but you can't convince me that moving Juan Soto in any way makes you a better team.
I always have my hottest takes when Woodsy isn't here. Is there a reason for that?
I don't know. You just come in and you're just like, Skip Bayless over here.
I know. I think it's because, honestly, I talk about 60% more when Woods isn't here because I have to. There's just more time to fill. And I end up just spewing my hot takes. Here, wait. I got
chat's like, are you okay?
I got another one. For you.
God.
Joe Espada was promoted or is going to be promoted to Astros manager. I think they've got a press conference coming up here in a few minutes in Houston. It's being framed as a pretty feel-good story. Guy's been waiting for his turn for a long time, gotten some interviews elsewhere, has never been given the shot. Native of Puerto Rico, going to take over for Dusty Baker in Houston, keeping it all in the family. Maybe all that is true. Joe Espada was the bench coach under A.J. Hinch when the whole sign stealing and everything happened. How Joe Espada has somehow avoided just the absolute splatter of carnage of that entire scandal.
Right.
And now they're just fine putting him. I mean, they had to bring in Dusty Baker because he had nothing to do with the Astros, right? They had to bring in Dusty Baker to rehabilitate the image of the team that had taken such a big hit from the sign-stealing scandal that they brought Dusty Baker in. But now, Dusty leaves, and they're ready to turn it right over. And, yeah, he wasn't the manager at the time, but he was in that clubhouse. And not once did anyone say anything about Joe Espada. And maybe he didn't know what was going on. Maybe he couldn't stop it the same way A.J. Hinch couldn't stop it. But this is a guy who was there for all of this. They can't argue that, it's a long time ago, water under the bridge, right. Whatever. This is clearly part of the story of Joe Espada, that he was a member of the Houston Astros tainted World Series title in 2017. And he didn't stop it. Could he have? I don't know, but he was there. I mean, it's hard to imagine that you didn't have an inkling of what might have been going on with your hitters when you're the bench coach of the team under A.J. Hinch at the time.
Sure, but feels like it's a time heals all wounds kind of a thing.
But now he's set to become the Houston Astros manager, and I'm not hearing word one about any of this. The fact that, no one is talking about the fact that they're
keep in mind.
Why not just hire A.J. Hinch away from the Detroit Tigers and go right back to A.J. Hinch at this point? You think someone might say something like, I don't know if that's a great look, Houston, just to go right back to A.J. Hinch.
Beltran.
This is essentially what they're doing. Maybe Espada hires Beltran as his bench coach and just go right for it right now. But that's what's going on with the Houston Astros right now. And I'm not saying that they're making the wrong decision or that Joe Espada doesn't deserve another chance or hasn't waited patiently for his turn, but I'm just surprised that there hasn't been more discussion about this as he's set to get introduced as the new manager of the Astros in about 5 minutes. Primetime games available in the NFL from Westwood One, free, live right here on 97.3 The Fan and on the Odyssey app tonight. Listen to the Broncos and Bills, and then Thursday, Eagles and Chiefs. Really? We get Eagles and Chiefs. That's Thursday night? That's incredible. 97.3 The Fan at 4:30, or simply download the Odyssey app, search for 97.3 The Fan at kickoff. All right, we're halfway home. We'll come back. We're going to do a Reindl Report early in our 8 o'clock hour. Sam Levitt in studio, all coming up here on The Fan.
Halfway home on a Monday. Good morning.
Good morning.
Ben and Paul this morning here on 97.3 The Fan. Woodsy in Los Angeles having some fun, going to a concert tonight. So he'll be back on.
Wasn't it the Chargers game with Benji Heel yesterday?
He might have. I didn't see him in those pictures.
Maybe he was taking the picture. I'm not sure
he might
if
have
he was
been
there or not.
Yeah, that Woods.
He probably would have gone to cheer for Dan Campbell in Lawrence. You know
big,
he loves
big Dan
him
Campbell
some
fan.
Dan Campbell. So,
But he'll be back on Wednesday morning as we inch closer and closer to Thanksgiving. And Benny, I just wanted to kick off the 8 o'clock hour with some condolences to a Tier 1. Our buddy Michael, he's in our YouTube chat this morning. He's a YouTube member for Ben and Woods, and he says, Tier 1s, could you do me a favor? Please say a prayer for my family. My sister lost her battle with cancer yesterday. A big thank you. Michael, we're so sorry to hear that, and we're thinking of you, and all I can say is that the Tier 1s are a very powerful community of listeners, and we're all pulling for you, buddy.
yeah. Are you gonna play it?
No, I'm not going to do that.
You're not going to do that?
No.
I mean, it's an honor. It's a Ben and Woods tradition.
Oh, man.
I think you have to. I mean,
It's really shout out to his family?
It is. It
hurts
always
so much.
played
It
with
hurts.
the best of intentions.
It hurts so much, though, when it's somebody
We
personal.
have turned something that was an incredibly kind of tasteless moment from David Guetta into, I think, what is a truly iconic tribute and the best heartfelt shout out that we can do to someone when they lose someone. It's a painful moment, but if we can bring a smile to your face,
but when we
try
brought that
to.
out during the pandemic. That it happened early 2020, and we've had friends of our show that we've lost, and we've done the shout out to their family. It hurts so much more when it's somebody you know.
I know,
somebody personal.
I absolutely know, but it's always with the best of intentions when we play it. We're not trying to make fun of anyone when we do. So I think it's only fair that if it was us or a Tier 1 that lost someone, that you have to shout out to their family.
Shout out to his family.
Michael, that was all Ben. Unless you liked it, then it was me.
Well, I mean, I'm off the rails today, at least according to a lot of our listeners on Twitter and in the chat right now. Challenge me. Go ahead. Keep me in line. Woods isn't here. Someone said when Ben's not afraid of Woods coming after him. Well, there's a little bit of the when the cat's away, the mice will play vibe going on right now. But if you want to play the role of Woods and tell me I'm an idiot for saying maybe the Padres, if they have to trade Juan Soto.
I'm going to send show notes to Woods and be like, these were the hot takes that Ben had this morning while you were out.
If they have to trade Juan Soto, and I'd rather them not, but if they did, is there a way you could land Corbin Burns in a 3-way deal to at least bolster your pitching staff? I say that's something you have to consider. But if you want to, check me, 833-288-0973. Pick up the phone, give me a call. We can take some calls here this hour on Ben and Woods. If you want to talk about Brady Hoke, no longer the head coach of the San Diego State Aztecs. Not fired, retiring as head coach. He will coach the last 2 games for San Diego State against San Jose State. I remember a day when San Diego State would be favored by 20 to 30 points over San Diego State. I believe they're 2-touchdown underdogs at San Jose State this week.
Good.
And then home against Fresno State in the final game of the season. Those will be the last 2 games of Brady Hoke's coaching career with the Aztecs. And then the San Diego State will move on. But if you want to talk about that, 858-833-288-0973. I have an 858 number, though, but I wasn't going to give my phone number out.
Give your number out over there.
I'm not going to do that.
People can text you throughout the day about your bad opinions.
Speaking of college football, right after the show on Friday, the news broke that the Big Ten was suspending Jim Harbaugh for the final 3 games of the regular season in the wake of their sign-stealing scandal at Michigan. And Michigan threw a giant fit, said, what happened to due process? What happened to ongoing investigation? How can you just simply rush to judgment and issue a punishment before all the findings are in? But they were unable to do anything about it, at least this week. And Jim Harbaugh was not on the sidelines for their game at Penn State. instead turning it over to his assistant coach. What's his name again? I keep forgetting what it was.
His name is Sharon Moore.
Sharon Moore was the interim head coach for the Michigan Wolverines. By the way, as he was the first 3 games of the season when Jim Harbaugh was also suspended to start the season for recruiting violations during the pandemic. I am dumbfounded. Honestly, if I was a Michigan fan, and I couldn't be further from a Michigan fan, I have really no connection or interest in the program. But if I was a Michigan fan and this was the punishment the Big Ten devised, by the way, he can still coach in practice all week long, right up to the game, and then he just can't be there for the game. And then he comes right back. And
I was confused. I didn't really read into it all.
Yeah.
It said not on the sidelines.
He just can't be on the sidelines.
Can he go up in the press box?
I don't think he can be in the press. I think he has to be outside the stadium. I'm not totally sure about this. The Michigan they're absolutely pitching the biggest fit about this suspension, when honestly, they should be laughing and going, we got off so light on this. All we have to do is not have Jim Harbaugh standing there doing what? Wearing his khakis, his chinos, and and his pullover that he wears every week, and his hat. Football coaches, head coaches, do almost nothing, I think, during games, as far as I can tell. There may be 1 or 2 decisions that are 50-50 in a game that you could actually probably have a coin decide if you really wanted to. Heads or tails. Should we go for it here on 4th and 2, or should we punt? Flip a coin. Honestly, it's pretty much a 50-50 decision. You have analytics. They can tell you what the right thing to do is. Someone gives a halftime speech at some point, I guess, and that's about all. Your assistants do all the work, calling most of the plays, scheming up your defensive schemes, putting the substitutions in and out of the game. You don't do anything as a head coach during the week, especially. You're really the CEO of a football program. To not have Jim Harbaugh on the sidelines for 3 games is nothing. If I was Michigan, I'd be worried about having them forfeit games because we were cheating during the games. And I know people say, well, that sounds crazy. Well, if Michigan...
The fact that this is Sharon Moore's second stint as an interim head coach in a suspension for Jim Harbaugh is just shocking.
Let's take another sport as an example here. Let's say someone who worked down in the equipment room for the Padres figured out a way, without telling the manager or any of the players, but figured out a way that when the Padres were batting, he could put a bunch of juiced baseballs out there. And then when the Padres were pitching, he could get to the umpires just dead baseballs. And they went a whole season, and they didn't realize what was going on. And the Padres were just killing it at home. I mean, just absolutely killing it, just murdering opponents, record home run numbers. Their pitchers had a 1 ERA. And no one knew about this. You can't really necessarily blame anyone in particular because they didn't know what was going on other than the person who was doing this. Would that be fair for the rest of baseball, for the Padres to, keep their record? Well, I guess we can't do anything about it now. Isn't that what Michigan got? Even if Jim Harbaugh didn't know about this, if their coaches, their players were getting an advantage based on this Connor Stallions and, knowing what was coming, here comes blitz, even if they didn't know why he knew it, if they knew it and they were using that information, then they were cheating to help them win games. Really, the only logical penalty is forfeit. Forfeit those games, forfeit your chance at a college football playoff or a bowl game, and, your record is now, 1-9 or something this season instead of 10-0.
I guess morally it depends on if the players had any knowledge of this, because it doesn't appear that they did.
If they don't, you can't really punish someone who didn't know what was going on.
That would be punishing the team.
But you also you have to have it fair for the other team.
In your example with the Padres and the equipment guy, the players would know.
How about golf? Let's say maybe not a PGA Tour event, but let's say one of those minor, like a Corn Ferry Tour event, where there's not a bunch of spectators. Golfer plays. And I think this happened in a story we talked about last year. A guy who it's cheering for the guy is out there, and he is throwing the ball back into the fairway where no one can see. It's over a hill, and he throws it onto the green instead of in the bunker, and they get up there. Oh, it must have gotten a good bounce. The player doesn't know. It's not his fault. What if he ends up saving like 3 strokes around and wins the tournament? Would it be fair if they found out later that had happened? That, well, he didn't do anything, so you can't punish him, but he can't keep the tournament win. That's a tainted victory. Even though he wasn't the one responsible, he was not playing on a level playing field with everybody else. Sure. You can't count those victories. So honestly, the most authentic punishment for Michigan would be don't punish any of the players, but the wins have to come off the board. And it doesn't sound like they're even close to doing that. So Michigan will probably have a great chance at still going to the college football playoff, where, by the way, Jim Harbaugh is going to be allowed to coach. You know, if they get to the college football playoff, bowl game, whatever, he's going to be there. So it doesn't really matter. And if he's still suspended the next couple of games, there's going to be an injunction hearing on Friday to see whether they can get him on the sideline for Saturday's game at Maryland. But if he's not, then the interim coach gets to coach again. And I'm 100% for that, because here he is again. What's his name again?
Sherrone Moore.
Sherrone Moore. Here he was after the win over Penn State on Saturday in Happy Valley.
This was live on television on Fox after the game. Live on television one more time.
To win on the road in this environment when there were doubts. Sherrone, what does it mean to you?
I want to thank the Lord. I want to thank Coach Harbaugh. Love you, man. Love the out of you, man. This is for you. For this university, the president, our AD. We got the best players, best university, best alumni in the country. Love you guys. These guys right here. These guys right here, man. These guys did it. These guys did it, man. Man. Love you.
Thank you, Coach.
Wait. It sounds like some, like high school girl's Facebook post or something. What the heck was that?
I want to thank Coach Harbaugh. Love you, man.
He's not dead.
I know.
You just saw him before the game. You're going to see him right after the game.
You're coaching because he's suspended for cheating. Again.
I want to thank Coach Harbaugh. Love you, man. Love the out of you, man.
Find you someone who loves you like Sherrone Moore.
Holy
loves
cow.
Jim Harbaugh.
You just beat Penn State. You always beat Penn State. They don't win any big games. You did not change the world, man. You did not win one for Coach Harbaugh. He's been suspended twice this season. That was hilarious.
That made me laugh.
I want him to be the coach now for the. Honestly, I hope Harbaugh leaves for the NFL. Make that guy the head coach for the rest of time for Michigan football. That was that was absolutely fantastic.
Oh, Coach Harbaugh. Love you, man. Love the out of you, man.
And that was not censored on television.
I love the S out of you, man.
Oh man, where to go from there?
Yeah, I mean, he's right there. You're gonna see him all week. He's not battling.
He'll be in the
cancer.
locker room after the game.
He'll
be coaching all week.
Suspended by the Big Ten for 3 games. Get a grip. Get a grip, Sherrone. Please.
It's going to be okay.
All right. Let's take a little time out. We'll check traffic. We'll come back. You want to join us? 833-288-0973. It's Ben and Woods. Paulie and Woodsy will be back on Wednesday on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. touchdown when you shop your whole feast in one trip, and that's it at Smart & Funnel. Use promo code SFThanks for free delivery on your next order. 833-288-0973. If you want to join us, talk about anything. We've kind of bounced all around this morning, Paulie, with Woods out for today and tomorrow. College football, college basketball, Padres, off-season baseball, managerial search.
We had breaking coaching news this morning here in San Diego.
We did.
It was not the news I thought we were going to have.
Brady Hoke is, in fact, out as head coach at San Diego State. It's being at least framed as a retirement, although that really doesn't make much sense when you think about it.
It's not a retirement.
We'll see. If they end up paying out his contract, then it's not a retirement. It's being fired. As you would expect a coach who was in last place in the Mountain West
again,
at a school
if they
like
were
San
6-3,
Diego State.
he would not be retiring.
I tend to agree with you 100%.
I would almost guarantee you he's coaching football at the college level, maybe even next year.
Yeah, he might take a year or two off.
Certainly in the next 2 or 3 years, but maybe even next year.
But
so he's not retiring.
I don't know that he'll be a head coach again. I didn't think he'd ever be a head coach again when he took the job as defensive line coach at San Diego State. When you go to a school, you were a head coach, and you come back as a defensive line coach, you've pretty much given up on your dream of being a head coach again. If it weren't for just the weird circumstances of Rocky leaving and him already being there, I bet he would have said I'm probably just going to live out my days as an assistant, enjoy my football coaching when I can with the kids, and I've made some nice money and, hopefully save some of it. But it's time for the Aztecs to move on. And there really wasn't much of an argument against it other than that buyout, and we'll see how they handle that going forward. I mentioned yesterday there were 5 games that ended in walk-off field goals in the NFL with zeros on the clock, which was pretty cool. One of them was the Chargers losing to the Lions. We talked about that a little bit earlier, but a couple of kind of big upsets. The Cleveland Browns rallied from 31-17 down in the fourth quarter to beat the Baltimore Ravens in Baltimore 33-31. For half that game, everyone was talking about how it looks like Baltimore is the best team in the NFL. And then they lose the game to the Cleveland Browns, who scored 13 points in 49 seconds on a Deshaun Watson touchdown pass and then a tipped interception that was returned for a touchdown. They missed the extra point, so they were still down 1, but then Watson drove them down. And say what you want about Deshaun Watson, he's vastly overpaid. It was probably a giant mistake for the Browns to trade for him and give him that contract. He did help them win that game, though, against the Baltimore Ravens, and Browns are 6-3. I mean, they're in a playoff spot right now in the AFC.
I had that game, I had Red Zone on yesterday, so I wasn't watching that game specifically, but anytime in the whole first half of the morning slate, when Red Zone flipped over to that game, they just kept showing Deshaun Watson's numbers at the bottom of the corners, 1 for 9 for 17 yards. He was not having a good day.
No, he had a terrible first half, and then he was 13 for 13 or something like that in the second half, and helped the Browns come back for a big win over the Ravens. The Texans have been one of the real surprise stories. C.J. Stroud, another big game for the rookie, 356 yards passing on the road as they beat the Cincinnati Bengals 30-27, and I think the Texans are now 5-5 and on the fringe of playoff contention. No one expected that this season from that team, but Stroud is looking like the prime catch in the quarterback class from this last season. He's really instantly come and put up some pretty impressive numbers for the Houston Texans. And then you had 2 games in the NFC West that ended with walk-off field goals. The Seattle Seahawks beat the Washington Commanders 29-26. Geno Smith just kind of quietly continuing to keep the Seahawks there in playoff contention with 369 yards and 2 touchdowns. And then the Cardinals got Kyler Murray back, his first game in 11 months since his ACL, his knee injury, or his what is that? That's the ACL, right? In the knee. Yeah.
ACL, MCL?
Yeah, I think it was the ACL. And then first game in 11 months, had a rushing touchdown at the end of the first half, and then led them on the game-winning drive down 23-22 to set up the game-winning field goal as they beat the Atlanta Falcons 25-23. So 5 Literal walk-offs in the NFL. All of those field goals, not even one of them had 3 seconds left on the clock. They were all zeros on the clock when the kick was made to end those games yesterday. Sunday Night Football was the Raiders and the Jets. Pretty much as you would have anticipated that game went.
I made it 2 minutes, I think, into that game.
1 touchdown. The best. If you made it 2 minutes, you saw the best part of the game. The cold open. Revisiting the Heidi game, the famous game between the Raiders and the Jets that the Raiders came from behind for a stunning upset win, but no one saw it on NBC because back in the day, younger sports fans are not going to believe this, as big as sports are nowadays, and it seems like a no-brainer, sports were such low priority that if they were running over their time slot, they just cut away from the game. And because that game didn't look like it was going to be, it looked like the Jets were going to win. They went to the regularly scheduled programming, which was the movie Heidi, about some singing girl in the Swiss Alps, or is that that's The Sound of Music? I think I get those two confused. But either way, they went to Heidi. The Raiders came back. No one saw it. NBC was flooded with thousands of complaint calls. And
a remake of the classic story of a young girl who lives with her grandfather tending goats in the Swiss Alps.
It is that. I knew it was in the Swiss Alps. I knew there was something to do with the Swiss Alps, just like The Sound of Music. It pretty much changed the way that sports are broadcast after that. They really realized we must continue to broadcast a game to its conclusion. Can't leave a game early because you might have another Heidi game in which you miss the end and something crazy happened and you spend 3 hours watching a game. You really should be able to watch the whole thing. But that wasn't always the case in sports. Now, yesterday, they could have gone to Heidi at any point, and I really wouldn't have minded that much because it was a pretty bad game. I mean, it was all field goals except for one pretty cool touchdown from Aiden O'Connell to Michael Mayer, their tight end from Notre Dame, early in the fourth quarter. It was a nice high point catch where he jumped up and came down just in the end zone. Other than that, it was just like you'd think. It was field goal, turnover, field goal, 16-12 the final. Raiders, though, move ahead of the Chargers in the AFC West standings as they even their record 5-5, and they're now 2-0 with Antonio Pierce as their head coach since firing Josh McDaniels. So,
as you know, big football guy over here, and after 8 hours of red zone, I was just done. I saw that matchup. I was like, wait, who's Sunday Night Football tonight? I'm like, oh,
You didn't miss a ton. If you didn't get up early for Colts Patriots, that was an even worse game.
10-6 in Germany.
I saw a little bit at the end. Mac Jones was so bad that Bill Belichick benched him right before the final drive. They had a chance to win. They were down 4, and they were getting the ball back with a minute to go. And he brought Bailey Zappi into the game instead because Mac Jones had been terrible. So that an ice-cold Bailey Zappi comes in, completes a couple of passes, but they don't have any timeouts. So he goes up, and you think he's going to spike the ball. But he does the fake spike, the classic maneuver, and then throws it into quadruple coverage into an interception. It's no, fake spike only works if they buy it, and they didn't buy it. You just got to throw that ball away. So they lost that game. Vikings won again. Josh Dobbs now leads the Vikings to a second straight victory as they beat the Saints 27-19. That's a pretty cool story after he was traded from the Arizona Cardinals. Steelers won for my survivor pick. Beat the Green Bay Packers 23-19. They had to survive a couple of late Jordan Love interceptions at or near the end zone that the Packers were trying to come back and win that one, but the Steelers held on at home. Your survivor pick won easily. Cowboys 49-17 over the Giants. Cowboys have been one of the best bets at home this season. They have been dominant at AT&T Stadium this year. So you get a good spread. Cowboys at home, they've been really good. 49ers bounced back after 3 straight losses in the bye week. Didn't see this coming, but they throttled the Jags on the road. Thought that might be a tough game. The only thing they didn't get was a Christian McCaffrey touchdown. His streak ended at 17 straight games with a TD. Wow. At the end, they tried to get it for him. So
I didn't see that.
They're up 34-3. And they drive down, it's the final minute, and they're inside the 10. It's 4th and goal from the 6. But the only reason they're going for it is to try to get Christian McCaffrey the touchdown. They could have put all 11 defenders for the Jags on Christian McCaffrey, and I think they still would have tried to throw it to him. They put him out wide. They threw him a pass, and it was incomplete, but it was so obvious. The only reason they're going for it here, because they're up 31 points, as the game's long over, you're just kind of rubbing it in. Why would you try to embarrass your opponent? You're not, but you're trying to get the touchdown for your guy to keep his streak going. So everyone knew where the ball was going. Very hard to succeed on a play like that when the entire defense knows what's coming. And did not work for the 49ers, but they did win the game easily. And Bucks beat the Titans 20-6. I think that's your complete NFL recap for Sunday, Week 10 yesterday. Tonight, of course, we got Broncos-Bills for you on Monday Night Football here on 97.3 The Fan.
Thank you very much for that
You're
trip
welcome.
through the NFL.
I hope that wasn't your plan for the Reindl Report.
No.
We're going to do that in our next segment because Sammy Levitt is going to join us in studio for the final hour of the program to kind of give us his take on the Padres off-season kind of previews and what he thinks is going to be. Yeah, I could catch up with Sammy. He's going to be in studio. That'll be fun with Woods out. So that's coming up after the Reindl Report next with Ben and Woods on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. I know this is going to come as a shocker, but UT is reporting that even though San Diego State is calling it a Brady Hoke retirement, their sources say he was forced out as head coach of the Aztecs, which makes that twice now in the last year, because Mark Martinez also retired as head coach of the San Diego State baseball program, you'll remember, after last season. But the Aztecs still had to pay him out his whole contract and everything as though he was let go. And now it looks like the same thing is going to be happening with Brady Hoke. I guess J.D. Wicker just doesn't like the word fired. Just doesn't sound gentlemanly enough for a Southern gentleman like J.D. So he's gotten Brady Hoke to retire as his football coach after the last couple of games. Plus, he doesn't have to name an interim coach. When you retire, when you're fired, you can't really coach the last 2 games of the season. Brady Hoke has been fired, but we're going to let him stick around and, steal our office supplies and everything for the last couple of weeks.
Who's going to coach the bowl game?
Yeah, they don't have to worry about that. They won't be going to a bowl game with their 7th loss of the season. They have guaranteed no bowl appearance, no bowl eligibility for the first time since Brady Hoke's first season, way back in his first stint as head coach in 2009. So that's the news this morning out of San Diego State. I did want to remind everyone, you heard a promo during the break for it, but we will be announcing our first name in our biggest fan contest coming up at 9:15 today. It's your chance to win a night in the Odyssey Suite at a game next season with all your friends and family at Petco Park, and the 97.3 The hosts are going to stop by as well, but you have to listen.
97.3 The hosts?
97.3 The fan hosts, I thought I said. It says 97.3's hosts in my copy. So
I know how tough that can be for you, though, anytime the call letters are...
I do just like to read the copy that's in front of me, Ron Burgundy. So you can only win, though, if you call back within 10 minutes after you hear your name called. And only one person gets their name called at 9:15. And then someone else will get their name called at 11:30. And someone else will get their name called at 5 p.m. this afternoon. Correct. With Gwen and Chris. So first name this morning in 35 minutes. So stay tuned for that coming up. Right now, though, let's check traffic, and then we'll get to our Reindl Report headlines here on 97.3 The Fan.
From the 97.3 The Fan Traffic Center, here's Vicki Pepper.
This report brought to you by BMW. In Encinitas, 5 south from Santa Fe to Birmingham, a work zone has you down a lane. You're on your brakes from Palomar Airport. 56 east at Carmel County, a fire on the side of the road. Westbound is jammed from Camino del Sur. Now through November 30th, during the BMW Road Home Sales Event, lease an all-electric 2024 BMW i5 eDrive 40 for $719 per month for 36 months with $7,069 due at signing. Details at SoCalBMW.com. I'm Vicki Pepper, in for Kelly Danick with Ben and Woods, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
And get things started here with our today's edition of the Reindl Report.
Now tuned into the greatest.
Welcome to the Reindl Report with Paul Reindl.
Hi, Paul.
All right.
2 stories from the world of sports that we haven't gotten to yet.
We'll start off in Major League Baseball.
And 1 story that you didn't know you needed.
Are you laughing, biatch?
It's the Reindl Report
Hey, Paul, how you doing?
Okay, how are you?
on 97.3 The Fan.
Are you ready to bless the mood? I need some help, please.
That was good.
Can I get a yeah? Oh, yeah.
All right.
All right. Good morning, gentlemen. Or not gentlemen, just Ben. Gentleman. You are a gentleman.
Thank
Ben. All right. I want to start off with something that happened locally here. We'll start with the NWSL Championship. Watched a little bit of this over the weekend, and Gotham FC took down OL Reign 2-1 to win the NWSL Championship. And man, it was just, I felt so bad for how this match started. Not even 5 minutes into the match, this was going to be Megan Rapinoe, just an absolute legend. Her final match, her send-off, hopefully winning it with a championship, going out with a title. And she got hurt on a non-contact play like 4.5 minutes into the match and had to walk off the field. And I just felt so bad for her.
It was like an Aaron Rodgers moment.
Yeah.
Except this would be like in the Super Bowl instead of the first game of the season.
His last game of the year.
Yeah, it was just minutes into the game. at Snapdragon Stadium. By the way, good turnout. They had over 20,000 fans. Would have been sold out if the Wave had made the game, I'm sure.
No, we speculate. We're like, with the Wave not playing, what do you guys think the attendance will be? And
I think a lot of the tickets were sold before they knew the Wave weren't going to be there, obviously. People were hoping the Wave would get there. They were the top seed, so when they lost, I think people still went to the game anyway since it was a championship game and had some big stars like Megan Rapinoe and Allie Krieger, who was also playing her last game, and that one turned out much better. They won for Gotham FC. But, yeah, it was definitely a tough way for Megan Rapinoe to go out. Didn't even get to participate, really, in her last game because of that injury. But, yeah, good crowd. Not quite as good as it would have been if the Wave had been there. I'm sure the NWSL commissioner was bummed that the Wave didn't win because she was looking forward to seeing an absolutely no seats available Snapdragon Stadium for that game. Instead, it was it was better than a San Diego State football game in terms of attendance, but it was not. It was not completely packed in that game.
She just Rapinoe said after the game, it just felt like a huge pop. The worst possible outcome. I just thank God I have a effing deep well of sense of humor. But yeah, I mean, just obviously devastating to go out in the finals so early.
Yeah,
just a bummer.
If you're going to suffer a big injury, I guess your last game is the best time to do it. I mean, you'd rather not have it happen at all, but could have happened 3 months ago, and then she would have missed the whole rest of the season. At least she got to almost get to the end.
So a couple weeks ago, remember we talked about, and we still don't know if it was real or not, but we rolled with it as if it were, the bet, the 6-game parlay bet that was made in jail.
Right.
A guy put, I don't remember how much it was, $50 or $500, something like that. It was I think
it was $500. It was enough that he could have hired a bail bondsman to get him out, I think.
He won $13,000. He was able to pay his bill.
Yeah.
Well, we had another massive parlay hit.
I think this one's real.
This one is real, and it was more than $500. It was actually $500,000 on a 4-leg same game parlay. All four got
a lot to wager on a parlay. I mean, parlays are fun to put $5 on because you can win more than $5. You could win $100 or $70 or whatever. But to put $500,000 on the line when you need, was it a 4-way parlay?
Yeah, 4.
You need 4 things to happen, or you lose that entire $500,000. That's a huge wager on a parlay.
I mean, when I bet, you can bet, $50 or call it $100. Pick one team to just win the one game, and it could bring you back $90. Not bad. But if you put $100 on a 4-game parlay, you're looking at $800. That's the temptation there. So this man put $500,000 on a 4-leg same game parlay. All 4 things in the same game needed to happen, and he had Singletary over 51.5 rushing yards.
Devin Singletary of the Houston Texans
had 150. So we're gonna check that box off. Devin Singletary anytime touchdown. He did have a touchdown, so we're gonna check that one off. He also had the over between the Bengals and the Texans. The over was 45.5.
57.
And it came in at 57. Yep. And he had the Texans to win outright, and they won 30-27. He cashed all 4 of those. $500,000 4-game or 4-leg game parlay, and it brought back $6 million.
Okay,
for him.
I think that is the exact right kind of parlay. You take a team and you go, I think I like this team's chances. And if they're going to win, here's how they're going to do it. Going to get a good performance from their running back, which means probably going to score a touchdown. If they do that, they're probably going to put up a bunch of points, which means the over, and they're going to win. So you could just bet the win, and that would be, you'd win some money.
Sure.
But it's like, hey, if they're going to win, this is how they're going to do it. I might as well throw on these other parlay items as well to see if I can really turn this into a big score. Again, putting $500,000 on it, though, is nuts. Because Devin Singletary could have had a great game and just not scored a touchdown. He could have had 150 yards, but they tackle him at the 1 and someone else gets the touchdown. You lose it. You could have perfectly analyzed the game and you still lose that bet. That's why a $10 or $20 bet is very reasonable. Right. A $500,000 bet on a parlay is crazy. crazy.
I like doing the $25 to $50 parlays. You know, throw 3, 4, maybe even 5 games if I'm really feeling something.
See, now you're having to analyze 5 different games. I like what he did. He just took one game.
It could be 3, it could be 5. It depends on the week. I look at the games and I'm like, I am confident in all of these games. I'm not really going outside of my comfort zone here. I'm confident in if I were to just bet on any one of those 3 or 4 games that I think they would win. So you might as well just put them all together and try to get a bigger payout.
What I really think is stupid, and we see this sometimes, is when someone will bet huge, like 6 figures on a parlay. But all they do is the money line for like San Diego State against Point Loma Nazarene.
Right.
And it's like, oh, they're favored by 30. And then they do another 30-point favorite. And they don't have to cover. They just have to win. But it's like, you bet $100,000 to win $5,000.
Right.
And it's like, okay, there's a really good chance that all these things are going to happen. But even if they do,
it's not worth it.
You're only getting a little bit, and you're risking a huge amount. If just one of those things doesn't happen, you are out an enormous amount of money. So essentially, you need to win like 20 of those parlays in a row to offset even one loss. That's where the problematic parlaying comes into play.
100%. And finally, we're getting ready for the holidays here. Thanksgiving, just a week and a half away.
That's right. It's an early one this year. 23rd of November. So next Thursday is Thanksgiving.
Next Thursday. We'll be off Thursday and Friday next week. And a new poll asked Americans about their holiday eating habits. And we have found that the average person over the next, 6 weeks, call it, is going to eat 26 cookies, 25 pieces of candy, 13 slices of cake, 12 pieces of pie, 13 brownies, and 13 cupcakes. That seemed like a lot to me.
Yes, that seems like a lot.
But that's the average, according to these polls.
Give me those numbers again. That's for
over the holidays.
The whole holidays, like including Christmas too, right? Yeah.
I would include that to be Thanksgiving to, I guess, through New Year's.
So
26 cookies. I think that's probably about right.
All right. I mean, that's
a lot.
That's like a cookie a day for the holiday season. I can see that.
Yeah, I can see that. There's a lot of Christmas
you're not gonna have a cookie every day, but you'll have 5 one day. Let's be honest.
Exactly. 25 pieces of candy. I guess that's open to interpretation. That could mean.
I mean, tight like a Skittle, or is that
the red and green M&Ms in a dish, or something.
Are we talking a giant size Snickers bar?
For me. It was the 12 pieces of pie. That seems
like a lot.
Like, I think my over-under is 1.5.
I mean, I'll have definitely my slice of pie after Thanksgiving dinner.
Right.
And then if there's leftover pie, I may have another slice the following day. That's about it. We don't do, like, Christmas pie usually. That might be it for my pie, like 2 or 3. 13 slices of pie seems like a lot.
I don't know that I'll have any cake over the next 2 months.
Well, there's no such thing as Thanksgiving
cake. I mean, families will do what they want to do.
People have a birthday party in the holidays, I guess. You'll have birthday cake, but...
That's right. Megan's birthday is next weekend, but I won't
Does that count as part of your holiday season? I don't know.
She's not a big cake person. 12 pieces of pie over the next 2 months, the average American.
I mean, that's like a whole pie, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like 12,
a lot of pie.
12 slices of pie. I mean, I have 12 slices of pizza over the holidays at some point, just here or there. But yeah, that's a lot of pie. I mean, I like pie.
I do too, but not 12 slices.
That's a lot of pie. I mean, these dainty slices are like big. Because if I'm going to do pie, I never understand, and I get it. It's like the mom at the table. I just want just a sliver, just a tiny sliver of pie. Like, if you're going to eat pie, just eat a real regular piece of pie, like a normal portion, a nice wedge of pie. The old, this is like so narrow that it's really only like a bite and a half of pie. I can't really do that.
Like
I'm either eating it or I'm not.
Right.
I'm not having like...
I'll have a slice of pumpkin pie.
42 calories worth of pie at the end of my meal. I'm having pie and ice cream.
Is it pumpkin pie or apple pie after Thanksgiving?
I do pumpkin. It's the only time I do pumpkin pie, but I'll do pumpkin pie.
Yeah.
After Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I don't mind it. Woods hates it, right?
Yeah, not a fan.
Hates pumpkin pie.
I think so. I think he said that. I'm not a huge fan of pumpkin pie. It's not. If pumpkin pie
doesn't bother me,
if pumpkin pie were so good, we'd eat it in March.
Right?
But we don't. The reason we don't and only have it at Thanksgiving is it's because it's a very lower class of pie. We have apple pie all year. You know why? Because it's good. It's at least when apples are in season. But pumpkin pie isn't that good. If it was, we'd have it more often. Chocolate cream pie, any time of the year. It's fine. It's delicious. Pumpkin pie is kind of the lower end of the pie universe.
All right, I'm hungry now.
Yeah, that's a lot of pie talk.
You know who is looking like a snack that just walked in is the old Sammy Levitt.
Sammy Levitt. Oh, my goodness.
How you doing, Sammy?
I'm doing great. Good morning, guys.
Good morning, Sammy. We're going to bring you onto our YouTube stream here in our final hour of the program. Well, there he is right there.
Hey.
Smiling. Off-season Sammy. We had spring training Sammy. We had in-season Sammy. Now we have off-season Sammy. You're looking a little more rested and relaxed than the last time we saw you.
I'm feeling great. Got my electrolytes in this morning. Sunshine. It's my new thing. Electrolytes and sunshine. First thing.
We've had nothing but speculation so far this offseason. We don't even have a manager yet for the San Diego Padres. So essentially, we got a clean slate in which to talk about the Padres offseason moves.
I want them to hire the manager because I feel like everything in life is on pause. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, kind of for this show as well until this team hires.
Yeah, Woods picked a couple of good days to walk away from this thing because we are just in wait-and-see mode.
I'm wondering who, the JP Morosi tweet yesterday, who the other external candidates are. But that would be...
I feel like... we'll talk about this coming up. I've got a theory. I've got a theory on this, and it doesn't involve any surprise names that will titillate you either, but we'll talk about it next with Sammy Levitt on 97.3 The Fan. I'm very excited because we're just 15 minutes away from the first reading of the biggest fan name of the entire contest. Who knows? Maybe the first name will be the big winner at the end.
Now, explain this to me.
Okay, so every day, 3 times a day during
Shows
our
how much
show.
I've been paying attention.
That's all right. You've been off season, Sammy. I'd actually be worried for you if you knew all the intricacies of the biggest fan right now. Then you wouldn't be on off season.
I know it involves a suite at a Padre game.
Yes. You have to go online to register your name at 973thefan.sd.com. And then we pull the names out of the hat each day, 3 times a day, 9:15 on our show, 11:30 during Coach's show, and 5 o'clock on Gwen and Chris. If your name is called, then you have 10 minutes to call back. And if you do, then you get to go into the drawing for the grand prize, which is a night in the Odyssey Suite, 20 tickets, the whole deal at a game, and then all the hosts are going to come watch the game with you and your friends and family who you bring along.
So just because we read your name does not mean you're in.
No, you're not in. But if you call back, then you're into the drawing. So basically, you're hoping to hear your name called, call back, but then hope the other people aren't listening when their names are called to keep the finalists to a minimum when the final drawing is held here in a couple of weeks.
Now, every show does this, right? It's
Once a show, every show. Yeah.
So you really have to be locked in.
Yeah,
to
all
the
day
station.
long. Yeah, because just because you may be a tier 1 in the morning, your name may be called during Coach's show or Gwen and Chris show. I know, it's diabolical.
So this person will get 20 tickets as part of the suite.
Yep.
But we're promoting this as all the hosts are going to stop by.
We are
as well.
using our media passes. We don't have to use their tickets. We're just stopping by, and
50 people.
We don't even get to sit down. We have to stand the entire game in the suite where the people with the tickets get to sit down.
I'll stop by.
Maybe we can use the private bathroom. I'm not sure how that works. Or we can just go into the press dining area and get our own hot dog, and then we can come in. We won't steal any of your stuff, but we will be there if you want to talk to the fan host during the game. I assume you're coming as well because you'll be at the game anyway.
I
mean, why wouldn't you?
I've been known to stop by the Odyssey Suite at Petco Park.
I mean, you're working. You have to be there no matter what.
Yes.
But we'll all be there as well. So the first name is now 13 minutes away from being read here. That voice is Sam Levitt. He is our Padres pre- and post-game show host. Very good to see you. So you've been off for now a month and a half since the last Padres game.
It's been good. Spent a little time in New York, which was good. Been in a good routine. That's what I would say the off season without the pressure of having to go to bed really late on a lot of nights after home games, and also the pressure of having the pregame to prepare for every day, and then getting to the ballpark and all of it. It allows you to settle into a nice routine. You wake up, you can work out, you can soak in the sun.
When's the Ben Woods off season, Paulie? When we get to do that? I must have missed that off season.
We got about a week and a half in December.
We get weekends off. Sammy has to work like every day for 6 months during the baseball season. Sometimes like 20 days in a row or more.
And a full spring training.
So I'm not begrudging you a little time off to get into a routine.
It's been nice.
But you deserve it. And we're just going to start ramping up here. You probably have a press conference to cover in the next couple of days, I would think. With the manager hopefully being named,
I would think this week. But
this is AJ Preller.
I thought if I would have thought last week. If I were a betting man, I would have said by the end of last week. So now they're saying middle of this week. I don't know.
I mean, maybe it'll be like Manny Machado. We'll go into February, still no manager, just waiting till the last minute. Spring training starts, still no manager. We're still trying to figure it out. No, they got to have a manager. AJ has said. Probably happening early this week. JP Morosi said by the middle of the week last night when he tweeted, he did keep his options fairly open. Mike Schilt, Ryan Flaherty, Benji Heel, Phil Nevin, we know, got an interview. Is he a finalist? I don't know if he is or not, but he definitely got an interview last week. And other external candidates or candidate that we don't maybe know about. I have my theory there. And it's not some sexy name or under the radar secret candidate. It's because AJ Preller is so unpredictable that even the national reporters are afraid of looking stupid if he does something outside the box. So they
Right.
like to keep their tweets. Well, I did say that any other outside candidates, in case AJ Preller does hire someone that they haven't heard word one about in the last minute. I don't think JP's heard like, well, I've heard a couple of rumors of names, but I can't
Right.
confirm them. I think it's more like, I'm not sure of anything AJ's about to do, so I'm just going to keep that tweet as open-ended as possible so I don't have people, picking up the receipts later this week going, hey, you said it was one of these three people and they hired this guy. Because AJ sometimes does that.
It's fair. I would think if David Ross was amongst the candidates that we would know that at some point.
It's the only difference. People always say, the San Diego media is soft, the New York media is tougher, whatever. The only difference is in a giant market like New York, they will sometimes have a reporter like camp out at like entrances to something all day to see if David Ross walks into Petco Park. And then well, David Ross was at Petco Park today, presumably interviewing for the managerial job with the Padres. We don't have the staffing numbers.
You think they're walking through the front entrance? The front entrance?
Or you stand by the players' parking lot.
I think
you have
the
three
back
you
there.
have three reporters surrounding the place.
It's got to be in the back there.
Yeah.
Don't give Adam any ideas. I'll be staked
Sammy's
out.
Off-season
Petco Park.
Sammy has a new job. Stakeout Sammy is your new title. As you try to wait and glean information about who is coming and going.
I will
at Petco
tell you
Park.
this, though. We are under 3 weeks away. Is that right? Under 3 weeks from the winter meetings. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's getting a little late. Now, in fairness, there was the whole situation with Bob Melvin. So this was not as simple as the Mets, who knew they were getting rid of Buck Showalter at the end of the year, or with Cleveland and Terry Francona retiring. Has been a little bit different, but I mean, you got to assemble a coaching staff. Winter meetings are coming up. It will quickly after this week get late.
Yeah, we didn't mention it, but it was officially announced this weekend that Ryan Christensen and Matt Williams are joining Bob Melvin's coaching staff in San Francisco, which we fully anticipated. Pat Burrell is also joining that coaching staff, former Philly. Pat Burrell going to be coaching with Bob Melvin up in San Francisco.
Just killed the Mets over the years, Pat
Was
Burrell.
he? Was he a Met killer?
Oh, my goodness.
We know a lot of Padre killers out there, but it's good to know other teams have their own personal, just absolute guys that just were a thorn in the side over the years. Pat Burrell he wasn't a Padre killer. He seems to me like a Philly who just came up and struck out a lot.
Yeah.
But maybe from your perspective, he was like, dang, that Pat Burrell always seemed to get a big home run
Always.
when they needed it.
Speaking of New York, the Jets, Zach Wilson. You watch that game last
I did.
night?
No,
you
I
watched
didn't.
this team?
I did.
Oh, my goodness.
I didn't have it in me to watch
Oh,
Raiders
my
and Jets
goodness.
last night.
It's hard to believe that they can't find something else to try
ridiculous.
at quarterback.
How about this? Josh Dobbs. He would have
They
been
could
nice.
have traded for Josh Dobbs early in the season.
How about anybody? What are they doing?
How about Aaron Rodgers just in an absolute iron brace on his ankle and just shotgun, and you stand there, and if you don't see someone open in 3 seconds, you throw the ball to the moon. And otherwise, you just stand there and throw the ball to people. It couldn't be worse than Zach Wilson.
Now, the offense as a whole is not great. The line's not great. Lazard's been bad. They don't have a great receiver other than Garrett Wilson. But you cannot tell me with this defense and some of the other things they do, not that this is New York radio here, but, I mean, a semi-competent quarterback, they would have 6 wins, 7 wins.
Right.
It's crazy.
They should be better than they are. But
anyway,
they keep putting Zach Wilson out there every
hard to
single
watch.
day. I mean, he almost scored a touchdown last night. He was touched the line at the 3, and that one was called back, and of course they never got into the end zone.
Right.
You knew the second that one was called back, they weren't going to get into the end zone, didn't you?
Yeah,
I did.
and you knew the last drive where he threw the interception, the second to last drive last night. He has some really nice moments going down the field,
Yeah.
and he does show flashes. Like there are these, you can see why it's almost tantalizing to say maybe there's a corner to turn, but.
But you also knew he wasn't going 80 yards in 53 seconds at the end of the game.
The mistake is coming. The sack is coming. The fumble's coming.
I tweeted, can Zach Wilson go 80 yards in 53 seconds? And I go, this is a rhetorical question. Obviously, he cannot. This game is over. There's no chance. And he even got him down to at least throw a Hail Mary that got to the end zone and touched Garrett Wilson's hands on the way down. That was closer than I even thought it was going to be. Back to the Padres, though, Sam. So the only two teams that don't have a manager now are the two that started the offseason thinking they had a manager, which is the Padres with Bob Melvin and the Brewers who had Craig Counsell. So it's kind of understandable that they might be a little bit behind the curve when it comes to managerial hirings. You got Joe Espada being introduced above you.
We talked about it last week. I asked you guys,
Astros.
are the Padres, they need to hire a manager before they can go out and make player personnel decisions, right? Like, you want to have a manager. They don't have to, but you want a manager in place. Now, there hasn't been a lot of movement in free agency. That's typically going to heat up as we get closer to the winter meetings. But time's a ticking. You want to get the coaching staff in
place. If Mike Schilt ends up being the manager, honestly, they could do it today. They could do it in a week. They could do it the day before spring training. I don't think it changes the offseason at all for the San Diego Padres if it's going to be Mike Schilt.
Yeah, I mean, I would be kind of shocked if there is not a decision by the end of this week and we are not at Petco Park by the end of this week.
Kind of shocked?
I'd be floored.
Before Thanksgiving?
There would be something incredibly wrong going on if they did.
You would think.
I mean, it would involve, like, we made the decision.
In fact, the longer
and
this
we were
goes
unable
on,
to reach contract terms with whoever we were talking to or something.
If we get through this week, I will change my stance and say that they're going to announce Ryan Flaherty. I think that's the one move that they have to explain the most would be Ryan Flaherty.
Yep.
The young, inexperienced manager.
Right.
That one's going to take, and maybe he is the guy. Maybe he is the top choice for AJ Preller. But part of that decision comes with selling it to the fan base, and I think that's the hardest one to sell. So if we go through this week with no announcement, I'm like, oh, they're going to announce Flaherty on like Wednesday morning next week and do a little Zoom press conference again and hope that everyone forgets and doesn't care as we head into the Thanksgiving holiday.
I will say the longer it goes on, I would say the better the chances are for Ryan Flaherty. The fact that if they, have pursued some other guys and it hasn't worked out, you've got him in your back pocket, but you also have Mike Schilt in your back pocket as well.
There was some tweet I read about, I can't remember who tweeted it, about maybe Schilt being interested in, or maybe the Brewers being interested in Mike Schilt should the Padres not work out, which would make sense, I guess. I don't remember who tweeted that. Or maybe it was some
Go
fan.
back to the NL Central where he's familiar in that division. I mean,
yeah.
Is that someone's speculation or is that
I don't remember
actual reporting? I have no idea. I didn't see that over the weekend.
No.
But, I mean, that's not the craziest idea.
No. Well, look, I understand that there may be some thinking out there that you interviewed Schilt and Flaherty very early, and two guys that you know really well, and if it was going to be one of them, that it would have been a quicker process. I think the total flip side of that coin is, have you ever applied for a job? Like, it takes a while.
It does.
And
it does.
You never know kind of what's going on.
And
I don't think it says much about those two guys that it's gone on for a little bit.
Yeah, and well, maybe the Brewers are still looking into hiring someone like Mike Schilt. It's not like you're competing with a bunch of other people for the same, Benji Heel is not getting some other big league job right now, so what's he going to do? You're going to wait until the Padres make a decision. You're not drawing a line in the sand. Hey, AJ, I got to know by Tuesday, or you can take my name out of the running. No, he's going to wait until AJ makes his decision. And until AJ makes his decision, we're going to wait as well.
Right.
Until that gets done. But yeah, the one thing about AJ is he's not afraid to make decisions, good or bad. He's a decisive guy who makes trades. He's not afraid to make big moves. So I don't think AJ is sitting going, I just can't decide between these guys. He's doing his due diligence. He will make a decision. He will sound somewhat confident about it when he does, like he always does. And the Padres will have a new manager, and it'll probably be in the next 2 days.
Hope so. We shall see.
Otherwise, Sammy remains on standby. Stakeout Sammy on standby until Christmas.
I listened to the first hour, and then I actually had to go on Twitter to make sure this was a real thing. I can't believe that there are people that are angry that Benji Heel posted from the Charger game.
Oh, we can talk about that. I brought that up earlier.
You know, as somebody who's not from here, I have a hard time with that one.
Right,
Like,
we'll bring that up, and then I've got some
make
under the
people
radar
angry?
free agents from Eno I want to discuss with you. But right now it is exactly 9:15, which means it's time for the name of today's biggest fan, the very first biggest fan. Here we go. Today's biggest fan is Michael Keeley.
All right.
Michael, give us a call. You have 10 minutes. 833-288-0973.
Now, if you know Michael, you better text him right now.
Yeah, let him know. He's got 10 minutes to register for our grand prize, 20 tickets to a 2024 Padres game in the Odyssey Suite to watch with your friends, all of the fans, hosts as well. If you want to have your name called, we don't just randomly do it. You have to register by going to 973thefansd.com/biggest fan. Next name coming out at 10:30 with the coach John Quintera. But we got Michael
11
Keeley.
Or is it
11:30, I'm sorry.
11:30.
11:30 a.m. with the coach John Quintera. All right, good luck, Michael. We'll be back talking about Benji Heel at the Chargers game with Sam Levitt after a check of traffic on 97.3 The Fan. Well, we are 1 for 1 on the biggest fan because Michael called in during the break, and his name is into the
boy,
hopper.
Michael.
So, Michael, now you're cheering for no one else to call in for the rest of the contest, and then you're the only name in the grand prize drawing for the suite. My guess is there will be other winners, though.
Good job, Michael.
Yeah, listen,
right on it.
11:30 with the coach John Quintero for our next name. This morning, we got Sam Levitt off-season Sammy in studio here. In for Woods here this final hour. Woods will be back on Wednesday. But you mentioned Padres managerial candidate Benji Heel, which is what I call him, but I'm just kind of making that up. I know that the Spanish G is pronounced like an H, so it's Heel. It's really, I mean, he was Benji Gill when he was a player.
Right.
But technically he is Hispanic, so it really should be Benjamin Heel. But Benji's a nickname, so there's a little bit of a gray area.
As soon as I start
there.
saying Benji, that's when I want to say Benji Gill. If I start with Benjamin, I will say Heel.
Benji Gill, Benjamin Heel. I like to split the difference and call him Benji Heel. But he was at the Los Angeles Chargers game, tweeted about it yesterday there with family, and gave the impression that he's been a longtime Chargers supporter. Obviously, growing up here in San Diego, I was Chargers supporter growing up. When they moved out of town, I stopped cheering for them, but not everyone did. I know still a number of people like my dad who are still Chargers fans to this day, and I'm not mad about that at all. Honestly, I don't have a problem with him cheering for the LA Chargers, and it should have nothing to do with the decision of whether or not
I would hope not.
he is the next manager of the San Diego Padres. I did say earlier, Sammy, that it shows just a little bit of maybe a disconnect with San Diego to have your name in the hopper for Padres manager, and knowing there is a good chunk of this community that can't stand the Chargers and the Spanoses now.
Right.
That you'd want to so directly connect yourself in these final days before the decision. It just would, possibly be a little headache that you didn't need to have going into an introductory news conference. Or maybe Benji Gill already knows he's not getting the job, and he's just living his life like a normal human being, and we shouldn't have any opinion on it whatsoever with what Benji is doing with his weekends.
If you're listening, if you're a fan of the Padres, and for the last 2 weeks, Benji Gill's been your guy, like your top candidate choice, and all of a sudden you flip now because of him going to the football game yesterday, I would just caution you to maybe take a deep breath. It's going to be okay. He still is just as qualified to be a manager as he was 2 days ago.
Well, maybe he views it as, well, I assume he grew up a Chargers fan. And by the way, I totally understand, and I think we've talked about this when I've been on here before. Like, I totally understand. There are people out there that hate the Chargers, want nothing to do with them. They're right, absolutely. I would also get people, I think, like you've said, Ben, your dad, who still roots for the Chargers.
Sure.
And watches the Chargers and somewhat supports the Chargers, right? Like, I get it. Like, you don't have a team to root for if you totally disconnect. Whatever, that's up to you, whatever you want to do. Maybe Benji views it as it shows the connection, the deep connection he has to this community, even though that team is now in LA.
I don't
there
think
would
it
be a
does.
twist.
I don't think it
way
does.
to look at
it shows that he just, like a lot of people, and I'll admit it, I haven't really been able to find a connection with another team since they left.
Right.
So I have missed out on that Sunday passion of being a football fan since they left. I do get a little enjoyment in watching them lose, which they do like consistently on Sundays, and I get that nice little tickle of joy when they blow another one. But I haven't been able to replace the Chargers. I've tried, with the Vikings but I can't replace a lifetime of being a fan of that team.
Right.
I also can't cheer for them.
And it's about the city. It's about where you're from, right?
I can't cheer for
sports.
them either.
Now, I'm curious. We've had you in here for almost a half an hour,
Yes.
Sammy. Who is your top choice of the 4 reported candidates? Benjamin Hill, Mike Schilt, Ryan Flaherty.
I do think Benji is
Phil Nevin.
Well, I don't know, and I promise this is not like a super political answer, okay? I don't know that I have a top choice, quote unquote, because I think each of the candidates are really different and they bring a different set of experiences and resumes to the table. And by the way, Ryan Flaherty, he could be the choice, and he's never managed before, and he could be an excellent manager. Okay, this team could win next year, and everybody's on the Ryan Flaherty train. Look, he would be an interesting decision because of the lack of experience, because of how young he is, but it's not out of the question, clearly. Mike Schilt did a great job with the Cardinals. Also, still a little mystery about why it ended, and is somebody that knows the organization. Look, I'm a big fan of the idea of Benji Hill. I really am, because I think he's had a lot of success. I think he's been around a lot of different players and organizations. Managing in Mexico, there's a lot of pressure to win, and he's done that. I love the ties to the community. I mean, look, Phil Nevin. I've heard a lot of good things about Phil Nevin from people around the game that really like Phil and the attitude he brings and the mindset he brings. And so, look, I think each of these guys brings something different. Anybody could be good, and anybody could also be gone in 2 years. I think that's the reality of being a manager in general and this job.
Especially here, though.
I'm going to be curious to hear what the reasoning was behind the hire.
Sure.
Knowing, like you said, that each guy kind of brings a different set of circumstances and experiences. What was the tipping point? Because that's going to be very telling when AJ Preller introduces Ryan Flaherty as the manager. If
Right.
that was is it to appease Manny Machado because he's a Ryan Flaherty guy? Is it simply because he didn't feel like any of the other guys would work well with AJ Preller?
Right.
I don't necessarily think those are great reasons to hire Ryan
Right.
Flaherty.
What is it about Ryan Flaherty that makes him
I really
the
would
right
like you to
choice?
hire a manager because you feel like they're the best person for the job.
Right.
Not because they showed a willingness to kind of cooperate and be on the same page as the front office. Now, it is important that you can work with your front office, but if that's the only thing you're bringing to the table, it's not enough in my mind to get a prime job like manager of a Major League Baseball team. Mike Schilt, you hire him. I think the reasons are fairly obvious.
Yes.
Continuity, working in the organization, experience, the Cardinal time and taking a team to the playoffs. You can sell that pretty easily, even if he's not sexy, you can sell that pretty easily. I think Benji Hill, you've got a different set of circumstances that are also sellable. A little maybe the passion, what we saw when he was coaching the Mexican team in the WBC, some championship pedigree in another league, but a fresh perspective as well. Like maybe the Padres want a fresh new face coming in here with a different outlook, but who also can play ball with the front office and has the ability to do that as well at the same time.
See, initially when this all went down with Bob, it was everyone saying, sources all inside of the team are saying it's going to be Schilt or Flaherty. And when it was just those two, I was like, I don't really care. Just make an announcement.
Right.
Let's just move on. I don't really care.
I think they're different, though.
When Hill came into the mix, though, that's when I actually started to get excited.
Right.
And I thought, all right, if you're going to go something different, somebody different and change the culture, let's really change the culture.
Yeah.
And I'm all in.
I have trouble seeing Phil Nevin as manager of the Padres.
I think that's another word why you have to sell it. Explain why
well,
that.
Here's why I just don't think that he would be a good fit. And I covered Phil. I like Phil, and people change as they get older. I get that. Phil was not a patient. He was not a patient person. When he doesn't like something, he gets right in your face and will tell you about it and will make it well known. I mean, he stared down Kevin Towers in the GM's box at Petco Park because he didn't like the dimensions of Petco Park at second base after doubling off the wall. Like, come on, this is ridiculous. You could see him. He did not hide his displeasure well as a player. If you're going to work with AJ Preller as a general manager and there's going to be conflict, somehow I feel like Phil Nevin could be a powder keg that's just ready to blow in a situation like that. Things go bad in a baseball season. Is he going to be the one? Like Bob Melvin was pretty good at hiding it, even when things weren't going well. It's like, no, people are overblowing this. And
Bob is very good at
Bob was very good at that.
At keeping the mild-mannered
Phil,
face on.
Not so much at all. And I think he can connect with players and would have respect there. Could he handle things when, things took a downward turn during a season and conflict was generated within his own front office without turning it into a really kind of ugly scene and situation? Maybe he can. Again, people change, but the Phil that I used to cover 20 years ago, that was not the kind of personality that he brought to the table.
So, Paul, your pick is Benji Heel.
Yes. Like, emphatically.
Do you have a pick?
I'm conservative. Safe Ben probably goes with Mike Schilt at this juncture.
I'll tell you what I do like about Mike Schilt in particular.
The
in talking, well, that too. Yeah. But in talking to people, in that, well, there are two things. Number one, I like that he's had success. He did a really good job with those Cardinals teams. And number two, I think he's somebody that I've been told really focuses on like fundamentals and will make sure a team is fundamentally sound. And something like that, when I think about Mike Schilt as manager, something that I think about, like it was given to me an example, is like base running. This team was not a great base running team at a lot of times last season. They ran into a lot of outs. At least that's not me looking at any number. That's just watching the games, okay? Hassan Kim ran into a lot of outs. Juan Soto ran into a lot of outs. Like that kind of stuff, I've been told, would be a focus to clean up things like that. I don't know. I like that.
Yeah. Detail-oriented is good. If you wanted that, you just have Buck Showalter as your manager. No one's more detail-oriented than Buck. Sometimes to his detriment.
Andy Green.
But
We can do some...
Yeah.
Go back in time. Maybe that's the out of left field
right,
candidate.
Infield drills in September, dude.
Take one last time out. I want to get some of these off-the-radar free agents that are out there. Did have some news from Ken Rosenthal, little Blake Snell rumors this morning. If you missed that, Sammy as well. We'll wrap things up. Sam Levitt in studio, our final hour here with Ben and Woods on 97.3 The Fan.
You know, we got a celebrity in our midst here, Ben, called Sammy Levitt. It's that time of year, Sammy. It's a big time for you.
Isn't it viral TikTok sensation?
It's time, yes. I'm like somebody commented the other day, I'm like the Mariah Carey for New Year's. I only come out, the final couple of months of the year.
You had the
playing the song.
The viral voice clip yesterday, which, like, the way TikTok in particular works is you can take the audio from a video and then it just kind of grows on its own, and people can add their own mixed, songs to it and all of that. And you had the 2022 viral clip of the year for everybody's end of the year reels and posts with your voice, and you debuted recently the 2023
That's
version.
right.
And with that, the 2023 season comes to an end. Good night.
Fire.
Look at that.
I've never felt more older and out of touch than during this whole craze of Sammy's with that the 2022, now 2023 season comes to an end. I still don't get it and why it went viral.
You have to be.
I still don't understand.
You kind of have to be on TikTok and Instagram.
I guess so
To get it.
We'll
see what happens.
I mean, I understand.
I mean,
at
your
least,
teaser. Hang on. He put out a teaser on TikTok the day before he posted the 2023 version.
Yes.
People were asking for it. It got over 1 million likes.
I know. I mean, and no offense to Sam Levitt, who I adore you, Sam. If it had been like The Weeknd who had said it and put that out, and everyone made it part of their stories, or Taylor Swift, I totally get it.
Why me?
Why Sam Levitt is all I'm saying. That's what I don't understand.
So a lot of people keep asking me, do you think it's gonna really go again, right? Like really be a trend again? And I don't know, because a lot of it last year was people taking that soundbite and then putting it on different songs, which has started happening already. I'm be honest, I've already on my TikTok feed, on my For You page, I've been getting it on some different sounds already, and it's only November 13th. So I don't know.
This will only ramp up as New Year's
I don't know
approaches.
if it's going to quite reach the apex that it got to last year.
Maybe last year was just the tip of the iceberg.
Maybe
you may be dating Taylor Swift.
I'll tell you my dream with this. You ready? Somebody listening out there, you have connections to television stations. You have connections to people that can make this happen. Times Square.
Oh, with the
New
ball
Year's
drop.
Eve.
With
ball
that,
dropping
on the big screen right before
Yes.
Ryan Seacrest
As
starts the countdown.
As the ball.
Sammy plays.
Yes.
Unbelievable. Well, I'm on ABC. That's on ABC.
Come on.
I can try to, email my boss to email their boss to email their boss to email their boss.
And with that, the 2023 season comes to an end. Good night.
2, 1. Happy New Year!
That would be incredible.
You'd be like the most famous person in the planet.
I mean, my God, some of the celebrities that
Travis
you had
Kelce
last
would
year
want to date
making
you.
videos.
You'd be so famous at that point.
Yeah.
All right.
luck.
I know it sounds boring at this point, but I've got the under the radar free agents from Eno Saris I want to get to after our last check of traffic here on 97.3 The Fan.
From the 97.3 The Fan Traffic Center, here's Vicky Pepper.
805 north at the 94, a wreck clear to the shoulder. Southbound at the 163, watch out for a ladder between the number 4 and 5 lanes. I'm Vicky Pepper in for Kelly Danick with Ben and Woods, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
Now, if you're a longtime Padres fan like myself, you are no stranger to bargain basement free agent shopping. That's the way it worked for the first 50 plus years of this franchise's history. Only in the last 2 or 3 years did we even get to sniff the nice merchandise in the offseason and, actually try on the premium free agents and take a couple of them home with us. But for the most part of Padres history, these are the kind of names you've been looking at, not really on the top of anyone's list, maybe not even on anyone's list, but they're still out there and they will still find a team by the time spring training starts. And our friend Eno Saris from The Athletic put together a list. I think it's 6 guys who might have some small name upside.
Okay.
If the Padres are trying to fill out a roster and they truly have some payroll limitations, who can they find? First name on the list, don't think he'd be a Padres candidate, Ahmed Rosario.
Another shortstop.
Yeah, another shortstop.
Don't need one of those.
Second baseman.
You just said it. I think he's at the top of the Padres list. Are you kidding me? He's shortstop.
Second name on the list. Gary Sanchez. Well, not really an addition for the Padres, but someone that a team would be looking at that needs catching depth. I think the question with Gary is not so much do you want him back, is what is the price for Gary Sanchez?
Yes, and how much money do you have to spend?
What's the level of confidence that he can do what he did over a brief but bright about 3-month period between when he arrived and when he got hurt in September at the end of the season? Those power numbers were fantastic. I mean, any team would love having that out of a catcher. But Matt Carpenter did it for, 2 or 3 months with the Cardinals and then poof, gone the next year. So do you trust that those numbers are still in Gary Sanchez, and what are you willing to pay to try to see that he can do that again next season, especially when you're thinking Luis Campusano is probably getting the bulk of the at-bats. Is he worth it more as a backup guy, as a depth option? He'll get a job somewhere, and I'm sure the Padres will talk to him, but it'll come down to price.
Yeah.
Harrison Bader, center fielder. Now, I can't see the Padres really pursuing, even though I know a lot of people would love to see them upgrade from Trent Grisham. Really, the only options I see is you non-tender Trent Grisham. You don't offer him the arbitration final year because you want to save money. And you bring one of your young guys, like your recent Arizona Fall League MVP, Jacob Marcy, and count on him early at a very minimum salary, and you save some money that way. But I don't see them dumping Trent Grisham only to pay as much or more for a guy like Harrison Bader, who maybe will hit for a higher average than Trent Grisham, but you can't really count on him for a huge season either. So I don't know that he would be a fit for the San Diego Padres.
Yeah, that would seem, especially if he's getting a multi-year deal from somebody, which I would imagine he would, that would seem odd, especially with the younger guys coming up.
All right, now we get to one that I think is intriguing. Luis Severino, starting pitching.
Let Ruben Niebla cook.
Under the radar, starting pitching. Maybe a guy coming off injury, and you're taking a gamble on a Michael Wacha type.
Yes.
Now, Michael Wacha wasn't coming off an injury, but certainly had the history of them. Seth Lugo wasn't coming off an injury, but he was trying to make a transition to a starting role last season. This could be your kind of surprise hit sort of name for the Padres in their rotation for 2023. From 2017 to 2022, over 500 innings, 3.10 ERA. Also was hurt for a lot of that time. 2023, ERA over 6 in 89 innings full of injuries. But the talent is in there.
When healthy, ace type
and
guy.
when healthy, could come back to being a pretty top pitcher in Major League Baseball.
That would be a very interesting roll of the dice, and not out of the question, I think, in any scenario. Again, this is so much dependent on how much money do you have to spend. And when you're talking about these starting pitchers, well, is Luis Severino, based on the money you have to spend and who's available and who you can get, is that the best you can do?
Now, the starting pitching market appears to be so cutthroat that some of even these lower names might be getting more than you're really comfortable giving out. Just because so many teams need multiple pitchers in their rotation, they're going to be bidding against each other, which always drives up the price. And starting pitching, it'd be good to be a free agent starting pitcher right now, that's for sure.
Yep.
Reynaldo Lopez is a relief pitcher, which I don't know a ton about him. Eno thinks he's a bounce-back candidate after having just kind of an average season for the White Sox this past year. But 3.27 ERA in the bullpen. That's not bad at all. And he's got fastball velocity that supports the numbers, Eno says, and probably not going to break the bank. A lot of teams will be interested in, those kind of middle relievers, the 6th and 7th inning guys that change from year to year.
Right.
You're really just you're hoping to get it right for a season. You don't need to give them 5 years. You're not looking for a closer in the making, but someone needs to eat some innings in the middle of games and keep those 1 and 2 run deficits at 1 and 2 run deficits, so you have a chance to come back and win some games at the end.
Yeah.
Don't know if he's a candidate for the Padres or not, but he's the one name. And the last name on the list is Frankie Montas.
Another Severino kind of
type bounce back candidate.
Both of those guys are intriguing.
Yeah. I would not be surprised if one of those two guys did end up with the San Diego Padres in 2024.
Those are interesting, both. Now, Montas, he had the one big injury.
Yeah, he had shoulder surgery, but according to reports, the rotator cuff was fine. So, there's a chance he'll come back. And when he did come back, he came back right at the end, only threw a little bit, but the velocity was still pretty up there, not quite what it was before, but still close to 96.
Right.
Just a half tick down, enough to be effective, especially for a guy with some experience in Major League Baseball. Didn't alleviate every injury concern, but it showed enough promise that he's a guy you might be able to take a flyer on as a lower cost free agent pitching option in the offseason for next year.
I think Severino or Montas, definite possibility. Going to be fascinating. I heard in the first hour you talk about this dream, or not dream, but I guess trade
Burns,
scenario, for Soto and the third team. Look, does that happen? I don't know. But could I see a scenario where A.J. Preller has to get about as creative as he's ever been this offseason to make some of these different elements work? I think that's not a crazy idea.
If you missed what Sammy's referring to, Corbin Burns is got 1 year left of team control from the Brewers, who don't look like they're an all-in organization right now.
Not at all.
Given that they've let Craig Counsell get away and some of the other moves that have happened.
And apparently are going to lower payroll.
And so you can see them wanting to get something for Corbin Burns before they lose him to free agency and just a qualifying offer. The Padres are in a weird spot because they apparently need to reduce payroll, but also want to still go for a championship. Mm-hmm. And if you can't do that with Juan Soto because he costs just too dang much, how can you argue that you're still going for a championship while trading Juan Soto just for a bunch of prospects? You can't really. There's no world in which the Padres are a better team when they trade in 2024 when they trade Juan Soto for a bunch of prospects. However, I think you can at least make the argument that with the pitching, the lack of pitching depth, that as much as it would hurt to lose Soto, if you could somehow swing Corbin Burns for a year in a three-way deal, you're trading a star player for a star pitcher,
right?
But you're filling an area where you have more need with that pitcher, and you're saving about $20 million.
And the money part's important, especially when
on the salary while you're doing that at the same time. And you can say, hey, we're still going for it.
Right.
We weren't going to win with two starting pitchers. Yeah, tough to let Juan Soto go, but here, we've got another ace in the rotation, and we can put now Burns, Musgrove, Darvish as a,
Right.
None of the playoff teams really had more than three starting pitchers.
And reallocate the money
this playoff.
That you save from the Burns-Soto part of it.
Yeah. To fill a couple of the depth holes in your bullpen and other places that you need it. And more starting pitching, obviously.
You know what? If there was a scenario where Juan Soto is traded from the San Diego Padres, a trade that would get that caliber of starting pitcher back would seem to be very attractive if you're doing it.
You wouldn't necessarily need to unload your own farm system.
Right, which you don't want to do either.
It would be the team getting Juan Soto that unloads their farm system to the Brewers while you get Corbin Burns to bolster your starting rotation.
Yeah.
And you still have some of your up-and-comers to start filling in the gaps maybe at the end of the season, that the Snellings and the Leskos of the world will still be part of your organization, which you have always said, we need those guys to come up and hit and be, cheap, controllable, successful players like the Rangers had this year. They didn't hit until those guys came up. Padres can't trade them all away. If they trade them all away, they're never coming up and helping the Padres. So you got to hold on to them at some point. This is one way to do that without just punting on the 2024 season.
And I know that this is a larger conversation that we won't have in the next minute or whatever, but that's why, to me, the entire offseason, forget about the manager, but the entire offseason with this roster, it all starts and ends, the strategy with what happens and what do you do with Juan Soto.
Yes, it does.
That is
a big domino
question.
to fall.
I can't wait until Woods is back to react to my Corbin Burns trade
I think
scenario.
he'd like it.
I don't know.
We don't have to revisit it anymore.
You're good, Paulie? All right, we are done. Sammy, thanks for coming in studio.
Well,
Paulie, good job. It'll be you and me again tomorrow. I see Italian Paul here coming up next, I assume, with Coach Quintera, maybe Braden. Who knows what's next here on 97.3 Fan.